the radio. Shut up, it's Gaming Focused Audio.
Welcome to the Big Week in Gaming podcast, and what a big week in gaming it's been. I'm integot for episode 53 on Sunday, the 18th of July, 2021. As always, I'm joined by the official P3 nominated and approved Xbox Hall of Famer and #1 challenger to the mantle of the greatest Xbox RPG player in the world, Swinny.
Hello.
And the game-loving, grind-hating, pretend-to-quit coffee-drinking, gamer, anti-gamer, and interrupter-in-chief.
What? Episode 53, and you didn't make a big deal out of the intro? It's a 1 year anniversary, everyone. Oh my god.
Well, definitely.
I mean, I haven't been here the entire time, but I have been interrupting since like episode 13. So
and I like after 13, so it's like about 40 episodes you've been on. You still like don't look at the run sheet. We actually do talk about it in the run sheet. And that was the natural segue. So this week's show we'll be discussing Valve dropping Steamy Bombshell, the Steam Deck handheld PC.
Oh my god.
My impressions, unless you boys have played it, of the Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword HD, review of Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights. I always forget the subtitle of that game. We've all played that game. 2 of us have beaten it. And we celebrate our first birthday of the podcast. I should have like balloons or something like in the video version. And
Mike, you need to read what is in our run sheet. Okay. Make the money go boom, because that's how much money we've wasted into the podcast and got nothing back.
Well, it's not about getting anything back, but
no, it isn't. It's about the adoration of our fans.
We did promise last week that we would have a face reveal and a rebranding. Now, rebranding, it's like well on track. I think we want to just get everything nice and sweet. It's going to be pretty radical. Going to be pretty radical.
How can it be on track if it wasn't delivered the day we're supposed to be delivered?
I'm a business guy. It's all about setting dates that are unrealistic. Then gets people moving.
Don't get me wrong. I'm loving what I'm seeing. I'm loving the work in progress.
Yeah, but look, let's promise that we'll get it done by next week. So, but there's a lot to change. Like we have to change the video layout, the cover art, the social presence, everything like that. But one thing that we did promise is Swinny finally doing a face cam reveal. Are you ready for it, Mike? You've never seen what Swinny looks like.
No, I have no idea.
We've known each other for 25 years. All right, here we go, people. I should have a drum roll, but I don't. We're not a professional podcast.
I was expecting drum roll. That's it. We cancel the face reveal.
We'll do it next week with the rebrand. All right, here. Yeah, you do the drum roll.
Ta-da!
I was at Xbox all along.
Hey, Swinny.
Yes. Hello. Finally got my setup. So.
It actually looks funny to me seeing us all there. It's like
it's weird. Yeah,
I know. It's going to take me a lot of time to get used to it.
Guy?
Yeah, so I appreciate the patience. At some point, look, I really did appreciate my Xbox Sale image. That's one of my favorite things of, talk about a 1 year anniversary things we, later on, things that we loved about the first year. That's one of mine, that Xbox picture. So I'll have to bring it out at some point again, I think.
And now that we all can see each other, I wonder if it will change anything with the interrupting with the guy in the middle.
Nah.
I couldn't even finish my sentence before he said, nah. Speaking of which, Mike, you know what the easiest thing to do is?
The easiest thing is to follow us on socials. By searching Bigwig Pod, that's BIGWIGPOD. That's the easiest thing you can possibly do.
I do like how this is like not at all what you were meant to do in terms of like.
Well, you said not to read the run sheet. I'm technically not reading it.
The whole joke of it is like you make a joke about what's easy or what's not easy, and then I go, no, the easiest thing is to do this. But instead, you actually say what?
Surprise, biatch.
Oh, shoot. Corrections, Swinny. Corrections.
Yeah, just one correction. So and it wasn't something I 100% said, but when I was talking about the Greedfall DLC last week, the Divest Conspiracy, I basically said, it seems like it should be accessible. I reckon it'd be accessible kind of early on after you do the first quest of the game and stuff. It's actually not accessible until like midway through the actual story. So,
oh, wow.
Yeah, so I was wrong about that, but I was kind of like, I think it would be kind of thing. So
take that Xbox Lite and smash it right now. And smash one of your 360s up there.
No,
one of 4.
Yeah, no, they all perform a separate role, so I can't
a separate regional role.
Can't afford to lose any of the 4. So
we do need to have like a segment on a slow week about what's your methodology with the consoles. Now that we can see you can actually show the consoles. I want to get into the detail of like, do you even label them like Korean Xbox?
Oh, there's literally.
Wait, don't give it away.
There's labels on them.
Bit of a hype up. Your week in gaming, Swinny.
Not much, honestly. The only thing I've really played is Greedfall. So I'm not going to talk about Greedfall again because I've talked about it so much in the last few weeks. But basically, there's one thing I'll say. One thing I discovered this week that I was really happy about. So I've got this trick in some certain RPGs where that's a known trick where you can, if you've got traps in it, you can just lay down traps on top of each other. And The Witcher 2 is a famous example of this, where there's a certain boss, and in order to get all the achievements, you have to do like a I don't know, insane run through. And one of the bosses in the middle of the game, you can literally lay 40 traps on top of each other, and the boss runs into it and gets killed in one hit. Then I figured out that exact trick works in the Technomancer. And then this week, I was testing that out in Greedfall. It works in Greedfall as well. So when I go to do my extreme playthrough next week, the last boss, I'm going to try it out in the last boss and see if I can kill the last boss in like one hit.
Nice.
So that's pretty much my week in gaming. I was playing another game, but it's a secret. I will reveal. I'm under embargo. I will reveal the details in the near future.
Yeah, P3 sent you the code directly. Come on.
Yes.
Halo 20. We're already working on it because we're worried it's going to get delayed.
I'm doing a review for Philip Mooson.
That guy's editing skill. So just for people who don't get that joke, there was a very small, relatively, YouTuber who got promoted to the head of Nintendo coverage at IGN, which is pretty insane. And he is an amazing video editor. If you actually look at his editing, it's crazy good. But his writing and plagiarizing, not so good. So it's found to have plagiarized at least half a dozen videos that we know about, and probably more, to be honest. So, yeah. And the guy still tries to make videos. But I think YouTube's done something to his account where it can't get suggested or promoted.
Really?
That
can happen?
Yeah. They can blacklist you.
It happens to ours.
Probably, yeah. Yeah, that's where we're going to end up. So for me this week, Skyward Sword HD. I'll talk about that later in my impressions. Ender Lilies, finished that. We're talking about that in the review. I got to do a review for Vooks on that. Some stuff that I've like booted up again that I haven't played for a while. Monster Sanctuary. I was checking out some of the updates. But the problem is like in a good way, the developers, Morai, they're actually pumping through some more updates. So more quality of life stuff. Like you can sort through the monsters and do all of that kind of stuff. So now I've gone, I'll just put it on the back burner again before I complete this game.
Did you actually get into any battles when you jumped back in?
Yeah.
Because did you have the issue I had where I kind of found it hard to get back into the flow of things once
100%.
You've been away for a while?
I bumped the difficulty down to easy straight away as soon as I got back into it, because I'm kind of
casual,
whatever it's called. Yeah. And it's not that much easier, to be honest. It's not that much easier. Like I'm just at a stage in the game, I just want to collect everything. I don't really care about battling anymore. Yeah, I did find it tricky, but that's the other thing. There's some quality of life changes they're making where it makes it easier to figure out, how your attack's going to work without ruining the kind of mechanic of the game. So I think now I'm just going to hold it off again and play it again later. Other games I've picked up that I haven't played for a while, Picross. I'm only like halfway through Picross S2. I keep chipping away at that, but oh my God, it's kicking my ass actually at the moment. Monster Hunter Rise. That's such a good game. I just need to dedicate some time to it. And then finally, my son was actually playing Mario 64. And it makes me appreciate how just cute and well designed that game is. like we were just playing the first star in the very first world, the King Bobom, who you have to like toss around and stuff. And it's just like, it's, you know, he's like 3, almost 4. It's such a cool game where you actually, you know, you have that sand pit, the sandbox where you can just play around with it. So I'm like sneaking up to the king, like on all 4s, and he just like thinks it's the most hilarious thing that what I'm doing. It's such a cool game. And it's so like, it's a very special game, just like so many Nintendo games that are iconic where you can create your own little stories out of it. And it's just, you know, the characters are so vivid. So that game's so cool. I got to get back and try to 120 star it. I'm like halfway through, I think there's 76 stars. So
the only thing that with that game and kids is, and I've seen this firsthand, the chain chomp in the first level just seems so punishing for players that are still getting, because that thing can kill you in 3 hits, you know.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that's more so like, okay, just run away from that thing kind of thing, you know, until you kind of get used to the controls. Because, like that's one of the first things you come across in the very first level. So,
yeah, you know, like, and this is very left field and I'll get on with it because we're already dragging on. But, you know, I keep on thinking about what kind of game I want to make because I'm so committed to this idea of like making a game and publishing it this year. I don't think I'll be able to do this year, but I feel like there's a massive gap in the market, and maybe it's just my experience at the moment of asymmetric co-op, right? I just don't know enough games out there that, like, what is the best asymmetric co-op game? I cannot think of one, actually. And if you actually know, let me know, because I'm keen to try. I want to play a game where it's like, you know, I play and like I'm the main player, but then, you know, like my little buddy helps me out, but the difficulty for that player is a lot less. You know what I mean?
Isn't that Luigi's Mansion 3?
Yeah, I'd probably say that's the closest. Because you can play that almost single player.
But it's still too complex. You can play
single player, but I mean...
I'm talking about genuinely asymmetric. Like the game they're playing is like totally different to the game I'm playing, but we are working together to achieve something.
Mario Galaxy then?
But it's just not enjoyable. I know what you're talking. Like that's the only thing I could think of. That's the only game that I could think of. And it's just, I don't know. I feel like it's a bit of a gap in the market. I feel like someone's going to go in there and do well in that space. Because there's a lot of situations where...
It was like Nintendo should go into that
space. 100%. I think they could definitely probably almost fill that space the best. So, yeah. And then the last thing I want to ask you guys is help me out. Like, I've committed now to buying the Playdate when it goes up for pre-order this month. So it's going to be short. It's going to be in the next week or 2.
You want us to lend you money or what?
No. I want you guys to come up with some ideas that I can execute on so I don't have to use my brain of like, what could you use the crank for to make a game that you have, like the crank is the optimal gameplay controller.
All right. Picture this. Jason Statham.
Yes.
And he has to keep getting adrenaline injected into his body, otherwise he's going to die.
It's not the first thing I pictured when I pictured him. I pictured the cranking up his erection. But
I guess that is crank too, isn't it? So
he's a pretty good-looking guy, you know.
Those movies were wild.
I love those movies. I love those movies so much. I think you're frozen, so we need to work on your face cam so we need to work out what the bugs are.
It's such a good. We'll just leave it like that for the rest of the episode. That's awesome. Yeah. He's back.
That's the second happen. So there might be a few freezes every now and then until we.
Are you back on? Because I'll remove this face. Oh no, you're not.
Yeah, he's back on. Yeah.
Why are you not using the Swinny is missing?
Well, no, because like, you know, I wasn't expecting this to happen. I need to. Well, I'll go to full screen of you to fix it.
There we go. Thank you. Yeah, it actually happened in the intro. I don't know if you guys noticed. I had to refresh in the intro as well.
So. Oh no, I did notice that. Yeah. I just wanted to go past a bit. Yeah, we'll work out the bugs. I'm sure.
Yeah, we don't know what's happening. He just randomly goes, "I'm just gonna stop working." So
we'll work it out. And Mike, to round us out, what is your week in gaming been?
Oh boy, gosh! I actually played a lot, yet not a lot at the same time. So played a little bit of Full Throttle. because it's Game of Some Other Year that we have to do. So been dabbling in that. Finished Ender Lilies. And by finished, I mean, without spoiling anything, there are multiple endings. So I got
let's cover in the review.
Best ending, but we'll cover that in the review. What else did I play? Gosh. I tried a little bit of Hellpoint because that was available for free about a month ago on GOG, I think.
I don't even know what that is. What is Hellpoint?
It's like a Dark Souls inspired clone in a sci-fi sort of setting.
I picked it up the other week, but I haven't played it yet.
It's not bad. It's
but like 3D. Sorry.
Yeah, 3D.
Yeah, okay.
Full 3D, full everything. Look, it's clearly an indie game when you play it, but it's not bad. It emulates Dark Souls down to the T, other than it's in a sci-fi setting. The thing is, it's nowhere near as polished, I think, as something like what's the game I'm thinking of? Swinny. Can't believe I forget it now.
Mortal Shell.
Neo?
It's probably on par
The
with
Surge,
that game.
Mortal Shell, Lords of the
More
Fallen.
like the Surge, yeah. So if we compare it to the Surge in terms of the sci-fi setting, the Surge is way more polished in that sense. Way more polished.
I thought you were talking smaller game that developer.
This is definitely a smaller game. I mean, I don't know how big the game itself is in terms of the scope and the map and everything else, but in terms of the way it feels, it's definitely a smaller game. Now, in saying that, that's not a bad thing, because you can go back to Dark Souls 1, and by today's standards, there's a lot of things that are a little, I wouldn't call it janky, but, graphically, it's not quite as good. The levels are a bit more, the design's really good, but the geometry is pretty simplistic. It's kind of the same as this. In any case, I think it's pretty cool. You'll like it, Swinny, no doubt. And on the whole theme of playing Dark Souls-inspired games, I've been playing Vigil, The Longest Night. I had that game in my backlog on the Switch for quite a while. There was an update sometime last year. I don't remember exactly when it came out, that fixed a bunch of things. I dropped it because I heard that it wasn't, there were a few things that they needed to fix, which they did. It's very kind of reminiscent of Salt and Sanctuary.
I feel like you're burying the lead on this game, Mike.
Why?
Like the backstory about you trying to buy the game.
No, I've had the game for yonks.
Yeah, he's talked about it. He's talked about it before.
Yeah.
No, I'm saying when he went to play it, he actually tried to buy it.
Oh yeah, no. I didn't try to buy it. I tried to go. Okay, I'm a freaking idiot. So I tried to re-download it.
Yeah.
And then I'm like, where the hell is it? It wasn't in my list of games. I'm like, did Nintendo remove this from my list of games or something? Because I had gone to my Switch Lite, which I hadn't used for a little while. And then I went to the store and I couldn't purchase it either. I'm like, okay, this is weird. What's going on with this? Yeah, and then I found out I actually had it on the console itself. Now, in saying that,
it shows how many games you have.
Well, I think first of all, I think it's a UI issue in a way that I think Nintendo should address that by still having it available in your list of re-downloads, but just saying that you've already got it or something, so you can't re-download it from there. So that becomes like your list, your library.
Yeah, I agree with that.
You want to really check your library because it's split across re-download and what's on your actual console. So you don't have a view that I'm aware of your entire library, which is kind of shit when you think about it. But anyway, that's Nintendo store. I think they need to fix a lot of things on that store. I'm really surprised how shockingly bad their store is in so many ways. Anyway, so
I don't think it's that bad. It's just like very slow and like not discoverable. Like once a game goes live, you can't find it. Like
I mean, if you look at the Wii U and the Wii, like the past digital storefronts and the DSi and all that crap, like this is the Switch to me is way better than that.
Oh, look, it's way better, but it's so much stuff that it needs to fix. I'm not even gonna. You know what? I think I will make a segment on this. I will write a segment on this to suggest to Nintendo a bunch of things they can fix in that goddamn store that would make it so much more usable.
The thing, I'm all for a segment, but the thing is, there's so many things you can say that about the Switch that at that point it's kind of like pointless. Like, oh, they need voice chat, they need so much stuff.
No. But this is I'm just talking about the store specifically. There's a bunch of things that drive me nuts.
All right.
So.
Well, yeah,
anyway,
like one thing like that I'll add to that is I don't care about the folders crap. It's more the pinning. I just want to pin something to the first of my applications. You know what I mean? Like Smash Brothers or whatever it is. Like I just don't want it to drop off. So yeah, I'm simple, man.
So yeah, that's my. I'm sure I played a bunch of other games which I can't think of right now. But again, small bits and pieces of each one. I didn't really focus on one. very much at all.
All right.
So yeah, that's my week.
Well, why don't we get into the big news? I'll be on brand.
Massive.
The big news of the week, and it is the Stream Deck, Mike.
Yes, the Stream Deck. It's so huge that the run sheet doesn't even fit in a single 1080p screen that I'm using at the moment. And it's maybe because I'm zoomed in a little too much, maybe because too many people added crap to this run sheet. I don't know. But in any case, I am super excited about the new Steam Deck. Not to be confused with the Stream Deck. I know everyone's making that joke, but just making sure we're talking about the right thing here, because I'm not seeing any footage being shown on the screen. So this is the Steam Deck. So basically think of it as the Switch we've always wanted. I am like goddamn excited about this thing. It's a piece of hardware that I've been wanting to get my hands on for so long, and we'll talk about it in a sec. The fact that I can't even get my hands on it, and the reason is that it will start shipping in December 2021, but only for the US, Canada, EU, and the UK. So if you're in Australia, like we are, tough shit, you're not going to get your hands on this. There's also a reservation system, so you got to go in there. I think you got to pay $5 or something to reserve it. That puts your name on the list, and then as they make these consoles available, they will release them out to people. So the fact that Australians can't even order this thing is a bit of a shame. In fact, for me, it's a massive shame, because it's such a perfect device for what I've always wanted. Now, what can it do? So it allows you to play games directly from your Steam library, and it runs a modified Linux-based version of Steam OS, which the guys have actually said they're making openly available to other developers. So if anyone else wants to come along and create their own little device, they can use the OS, they can use the infrastructure, they can use all the whole platform, which is amazing. The fact that they're having that open to people. Now, in terms of specs, we'll talk about it in a sec. We'll go into the details, but it is powerful enough by what we're seeing to run most modern PC games at decent graphic settings. And we're talking about AAA titles here, not just indie games. And when we're talking about decent settings, I think you'd be able to tweak, because you can. It just runs all your games, which means you can have the normal settings that you normally would. I believe they try to optimize some of the settings for it. So by default, when you run a game, it runs the way it should, or the best way it can possibly run. But you can tweak any of the settings, which means you can target to try to get it running at 60 in handheld mode. And you can suspend games, which is kind of similar to the Switch. You can't do multiple suspensions the way that the Xbox does. So you can't have multiple games in flight that can be suspended, but you can suspend a game the way the Switch does.
Honestly, that's not a big loss, because the way that the Series X does it, it's technically impressive, but from a functional standpoint, it's messy. So
yeah, I wonder how many people do that, to be honest. I would love to see the stats.
I do it by accident more. I don't do it on purpose. Like, oh, that's right, I had that game and quick resume as well. Like, it's kind of like just happens.
Haven't they disabled it for some games because it's not working correctly?
Well, that's the thing, is it only works on certain games. So at that point, to me, it's like all or nothing. It's like only useful if it's available to 99% of stuff. So the fact that it can at least suspend one game is great.
It's massive. Yeah.
I do wonder how many people have multiple games at the same time. I just talked in the intro about how I think I was playing 5 games at the same time, but it was across multiple platforms. So I suppose you can get into a situation where you have it on the same device, but not a biggie, at least for us. Now, you can also use it, because it is effectively, and it's worth noting this, it's effectively a PC. It's a mini PC. If you could almost think of it as a laptop with an integrated screen and controllers, that's what this thing is, which means you can install Windows, you can install other game stores on it. So if you've got a library on your Epic Game Store, if you've got a library on GOG, no problem at all, apparently. You can install all those games on here. And I am super excited about being able to do something like that, purely because I've been ranting on about wanting to play games like Fallout, the original Fallouts, on the Switch, and I was disappointed it wouldn't come on there because apparently the source code doesn't exist or something like that. So this is perfect. It blows my mind how awesome this thing is. As you can tell, I'm really excited about this device.
We should call out, while you brought that up, that they've already said that if you do install Windows on the device, it's going to have a big performance hit on the device. So that would be battery and then also output as well, like frames per second.
Which is interesting, because the guys at Digital Foundry were stipulating that because SteamOS runs on Linux, whether installing Windows and having the games run natively on Windows on it would give you better performance of the games. Now, I don't know what battery issues you'd have, but they were basically saying that it might actually run better if Windows is installed because they run natively. I don't know. I'm keen to see exactly what's going to happen once it comes out and we get people testing this thing out. There'll be benchmarks and stuff, no doubt.
I like the guys at Digital Foundry. I think we all use them quite a lot, but I find their speculation to be a bit hit and miss. They're much better with raw facts and data and hands-ons. The thing is, why would Steam and Valve lie about that? It makes no sense, right?
No,
they would have tested it. They would have already tested it, and they've already said it has a big performance degradation. So
that's a bit of an intro. Let's talk a bit about the pricing, which I actually think is pretty good for the hardware that you get. So
for the US.
And we'll talk about the speculated Australian pricing that we are speculating. Now, it comes in 3 separate models, the 64 gigabytes, 256, and 512. Biggest difference is, other than the price, of course, is the 256 and 512 use NVMe drives, which are faster, and the way they described it is the bigger the drive, the faster the performance as well. And I have seen this as well with other NVMe drives that I have, where the 1 terabytes do run faster than even the 512s that I have. Now, in terms of pricing, the 64 gigabytes, which, by the way, personally, I don't know what you do with 64 gigabytes. Yes, you can upgrade the storage with an SD, but there's so many games that are literally twice that size.
I think the people that are going to pick that up are probably people just looking to use it as an emulation device.
Or something like that, indie games.
Yeah.
Indies, yeah, but I mean, I think at that point, you'd probably still just go for 256, even if you're playing indies, honestly. But
I think it'd be fine, to be honest. Most indies don't have that crazy performance requirement.
I'm not talking performance. This is space, isn't it?
Yeah, but 64 gigabytes is fine for indies. I mean, look at the Switch. Like, the Switch launched with 32 gigabytes, and everyone's like, "Oh, it's an indie machine."
Okay, indies. I think it's probably also okay for parents who go to EB Games or something, and they see the Switch, they see the Steam Deck available if it will be there, and they go, "Oh, okay, well, maybe we'll go for this."
But that's the whole thing. Like, let's be clear. Like, the only reason why they're making the 64 gigabyte one is so that they have a headline number of $399 USD in the States.
Absolutely.
That's the only reason why they're doing it.
That's what I think as well. I think they know that it's pretty gimped in that sense for PC gaming. 64 gigabytes is extremely gimped for PC gaming. There's no way in hell there's so many games that I have that I don't even think would fit.
Of course.
On that thing.
Put Call of Duty on it.
Well, you can't.
Even a
256 gigabyte model probably can't have Call of Duty on it, which is kind of funny. Anyway, in terms of pricing, the 64 gig is going for $399 USD, which we think is approximately 590 Australian, including GST. And then on top of that, you're probably going to get a koala tax. So what are we looking at? Like maybe 650 or something for the base model in Australia, which I
like how I've actually calculated all of this stuff in the run sheet.
Did you put that? Well, I don't know, because you overwrote the stuff that I did, and then
and then you just ignore it all.
Well, no. So I did my own calculations, but I don't know if these are my numbers or your numbers now.
No, I can clarify. So, Mike, the stuff that's here is what you put. I just simplified it.
Okay, cool.
And all of Integot stuff is at the bottom about the Australian release.
So your stuff is basically take the US spot rate and then add GST. I think that's totally appropriate. That's like our equivalent money. Like going in and buying the store.
Equivalent if we didn't get doubly shafted.
Yeah.
So the GST you got to pay. You got no choice about that. So this is the absolute baseline.
$5.90
no
for the baseline.
You would ever see it cheaper than this, I don't think.
No.
But on top of that, you got to get the Australian tax. So you probably
let's cover that a little bit later. Let's cover that a bit later because there's all the Australian stuff.
So 256 gig model is 529 USD, and then the 512 gigabyte model, which again, faster NVMe drive, much like the 256. Also a special coating, anti-glare coating on the screen. That's the biggest difference with it as well. And then you get a couple of other small goodies in terms of stuff that honestly, like keyboard, something about the keyboard change interface. I don't know exactly what that even was. Sufficient to say that 649 USD. Now, in terms of the pricing, I actually think that is pretty bloody good.
Well, yeah, it's under $1,000 Australian, so it's like
it's under
$960
$1,000 Australian.
Our equivalent, which is
given
damn
the
good.
specs is damn good. I mean, this thing is a 4-core, 8-thread Zen 2 architecture from AMD. It'll be able to run games and actually let's talk about the specs, and then we can have a go at what kind of performance do we think this thing will have. So as I said, it runs in the on the AMD Zen 2 architecture with 4 cores and 8 threads. Variable 2.4 to 3.5 gigahertz in terms of its performance for the CPU. The GPU is Series 8 RDNA between 1 and 1.6 gigahertz, which is equivalent to about 1.6 teraflops. So it's about a 2 teraflop machine in total, which is already, I mean, it's hard to compare it to the Switch other than it's a handheld, because the Switch is on a platform that's been out for quite a while now. So it is probably more, I would say, equivalent to the maybe Xbox Series S, but not as powerful. But we'll get into a minute why I think that probably won't matter as much. In terms of RAM, it's got 16 gigs of DDR5, which is pretty bloody impressive for a device like this. I think, look, for modern gaming, 16 gigabytes is what you'd want. Anything less, you'd running into the risk of might not be able to quite get the performance that you need. The display, which I think is a critical thing, is 7 inches diagonally, of course. And this is really interesting. It runs at 1280 by 800.
It's horrible.
Which is a 16 by 10 resolution. And in case you're wondering why I'm kind of surprised by that, is pretty much most of the TVs today, most of the monitors that we get for gaming specifically, run at a 16 by 9 ratio.
Okay,
which would be a 1280 by 720.
It's not most. It's practically every single one you'd buy in the store is 16 by 9.
Yes, I would say that the only reason why... Okay, yes.
If I said I'll give you $1 million if you could shop at like JB Hi-Fi anywhere and buy a TV, not a monitor,
not a TV. A TV you can't. Sorry,
Yeah.
The only reason why I hesitated there is because one of the monitors that I use is my Dell, which is a 16 by 10.
Yeah, and a really
But
good mate of mine has a
rare-ish.
16 by 10 monitor as his primary gaming monitor. But I hate the resolution.
Which is rare.
I hate the resolution.
You're on mute, Swinny.
Oh, thanks for the heads up. Is every game going to have that as an option in its resolution?
So that's the thing.
No, it will, yeah, for sure. 100%.
Most games, I remember when I was playing it, supported that. So it wasn't a huge issue or anything like that. But I do wonder, I haven't seen anything about it now, and I know we're probably talking about this particular point too much. Why they made that decision, why they thought you needed more vertical real estate. I don't quite know why they did that. In any case, I don't think it's going to be a huge deal.
It would have to be wider. It would have to be wider if you want to keep the same.
It's taller, yeah.
No, but I'm saying the whole unit would have to be even wider if they're
potentially if you wanted to keep that. Yeah. Or they'll have to get like more. The top and the maybe that's the reason why they did it. You're right.
Or like it sounds dumb, but this does happen. They might have just been able to get an insanely good deal on these 1280 by 800 monitor like display panels, and it could have
keep the price down. Yeah,
I've been a product manager in the past. If you look at some stuff and you go, it's like 1 cent per display versus $10 on this other display.
Yeah,
like
it's a huge difference.
Yeah, like. You just make the calculus. Do people care?
Get a display for 1 cent, but okay.
I'm just saying, like, if it's that extreme,
I know what you mean. Yeah, it can make a huge difference, especially when you're talking about an entry price point of $399. That's very tight, I would imagine.
And you've got Gabe Newell out there saying that they had to struggle. They basically had to struggle to get it to where it is at the moment. So I think that those things matter. Like
big time.
Everything like
centiles
that
mattered.
Absolutely. Now, in terms of controls, you get 2 analog sticks with capacitive touch, so you'll know that you actually have your finger on them. You get the D-pad. You get analog triggers and bumpers, and a couple of really cool things. You get 4 assignable buttons at the back, which I think is really cool. So again, we talked about this on a previous episode with games like Dark Souls, how you can't run and use your camera at the same time. Well, now you can, because you can just assign one of those, or literally anything else you want.
And so I use that with Hori.
Are the bumpers analog as well?
I don't think the bumpers are analog.
Oh, so you said the bumpers and
the triggers are analog.
Okay.
The bumper,
right.
the bumpers that you get, and specifically the assignable grip buttons at the bottom, which is what integot just showed as well on the Heuer. I use it on the Heuer too. It's freaking awesome. It makes you think, man, all controllers should have that by default.
I'm standing for grip buttons. Like
totally.
I feel useful. Like the next manufacturer for the next gen, whoever puts grip buttons is going to be a genius. They're gonna kill it. Grip buttons are the best.
Apple will do it and go, they're the first in the world to ever do grip buttons. Now, one thing that I think is it's got a gyro as well, and of course it's non-detachable. One thing that I think is quite interesting is they went for the more PlayStation style of having both of the analog sticks aligned, compared to say Xbox or Switch or a lot of different ones where they're at a different angle. I don't think I'll mind that. We'll see how it is once it comes out. Now, another really cool thing when it comes to controls that I think is going to be a game changer for something like this is trackpads. So I don't know if you guys ever played around with the Steam controller back when it was.
No, I want to get one, but no.
I had one. I kind of wish I kept it. I ended up trading it back, didn't use it enough. Now I'm like, man, once you get used to it, that thing was actually really cool with the trackpads and stuff. So I think what that will allow you is to probably play games that traditionally would require a mouse a lot easier, because certain things just don't work with a controller that well. I think this is a really cool in between an actual mouse where you get way more precision. You also get more traditional mouse kind of controls. And in case I forgot to add, by the way, you can actually plug a mouse into this thing and use a mouse as well if you want to. It accepts all that because it literally is a mini PC laptop.
Well, and on that, in terms of inserting things into the device or using it, one thing that always annoys me about the Switch, probably almost my number one pet peeve, is I can't plug my AirPods into the Switch. So I actually went to the extent, I don't have it in front of me, of buying a little dongle that I insert into the Switch USB-C to then connect to my Bluetooth. Whereas this device, it's Bluetooth 5, everything. Like I can use a DualShock on this. So I could play like Rocket League on this, It's insane.
Oh, it's awesome. It's the compatibility, I think, is going to be really, really cool. And that's the same with any headset. I think the dude from IGN, Ryan? I forget.
Ryan McCaffrey.
Yeah, he actually said he tested his Apple EarPods with it, and it worked perfectly fine out of the box.
I think it's safe to say that any peripheral, any kind of accessory is probably going to work on this thing. It's like got the freedom in that regard. It's really, really good.
In fact, you can, in theory, and it was kind of covered, I think, by IGN a little bit. You can, in theory, even set up VR using this thing. You can use it as a VR machine with your Oculus. Now, it's not designed for that. I don't know what the performance is going to be like. It's probably going to be pretty shit, but it can be done, I think.
Well, my best mate growing up, that's what he wants to use it for, actually. That was the first thing he said. He goes, and by the way, sorry, I missed the start of your intro, so I'm not sure what you have and haven't spoken about because the dogs were scratching at my door. I had to take them outside. But, the amount of people that are hitting me up about this device, oh, look at this, and they know I'm a big Switch fan as well, but they're just like, oh, look at this, is Nintendo complacent, or they're just excited about the device. It actually shocked me how many people who are kind of on the edge of gaming are really into this.
They might actually really get it. To me, dude, this is a game changer. I've personally wanted a device like this for so long. And the Switch filled that to some extent, but the Switch is very limited in what it can do in that sense. It's a very enclosed ecosystem.
Thank you. I was waiting for you to say game changer, so I've got it in the thumbnail. Just waiting for it.
Yes.
You finally said it. You finally said it.
So let's talk a bit about. Sorry, I'm in the middle of trying to explain this thing. So what else? Sorry about that little interruption. So what else do we have? Okay, wired connectivity, USB-C, kind of a given. We expect that it's going to have USB-C at this point. With DisplayPort 1.4, supporting up to 8K at 60 or 4K at 120.
So crazy,
which is pretty bloody crazy. So Rocket League, here you go. The display itself on the screen is only 60 hertz. So it's not 120, only 60. I think that's more than enough for a handheld. Well, I wouldn't say more than enough. It's what you'd want out of a handheld, I think. Now, battery is going to be an interesting one. I think the battery could make or break the device to some extent. It's got 40 watt hours, which they say is about 2 to 8 hours of gameplay. I love when it's like 2 to 8 because it so depends on what the hell you're playing. It's such a huge range, 2 to 8. But they gave an example where you can play Portal 2 for about 4 hours. And if you switch down to 30 FPS, naturally less performance, means you're going to get longer battery life. Now, coming from the original Switch, which felt like it had a battery life of about 2 to 8 as well, generally on the lower end, especially when you play a game like Zelda, I think it's a huge deal. It'd be awesome to get more juice out of this, and hopefully future iterations out of it will increase the battery. Maybe an OLED screen coming up will reduce the drain. I don't know. We'll see what they'll do. But for now, I think it's adequate.
I think that comparison to the Switch is perfect because people didn't really complain too much about the Switch's battery life. And I think people felt that was enough time. So the fact that they're saying 2 hours, I look at that as like you're playing, Call of Duty or, Jedi Fallen Order or whatever it is, like Control, and you're getting 2 to 2.5 hours. That's my expectation. And I think that's enough. Like, I handheld game a lot, like probably more handheld game than sitting down to play games, and
99% for me as well. Yeah.
Yeah. I think like 2 hours, like I'm not normally playing for more than 2 hours in one stretch, and then I'll just put it on the charger or the dock or whatever. So yeah, I think it's really perfect battery life. I'm surprised they can get that much battery, to be honest.
Given what it does. Yeah. Now, just a bit about the battery and the performance, since we're talking about the performance as well. Whilst comparing it to modern day consoles, it's not quite up to the same level of performance. The fact that it only needs to run games at effectively 720p or aiming at around the 720p mark, I think it's more than adequate as a machine. In fact, it's going to run most games pretty damn well. And I think you can aim to get 60 out of a lot of the games that you have. And the fact that you can tweak things means guaranteed you can probably reach 60 in just about any game that you throw at it, which I think is going to be a huge, huge thing. Plus, and we'll probably talk about this in more detail if you guys want, the fact that it's so open means you can literally play Nintendo games that Nintendo don't even have or don't even want to release on their own platforms, which I think I'm going to love seeing a bunch of those videos come out where someone's playing, I don't know, Mario Galaxy that's not available on the Switch, on the
Don't promote illegal activities, mate.
No, I'm not promoting it.
Also, Mario Galaxy is available on the Switch. You can't buy it in the store.
I thought
number 2. You said number. You didn't say number 2, you idiot.
Well, how is it available? It is available through the store. How do you?
It's on All-Stars. It's on All-Stars.
It's on the All-Stars. Of course,
it's covered a million times.
A cartridge that I can't find.
It is no longer available on the store. Thank you very much.
Yes, I didn't say that. I didn't say that. He said that.
Is the annoying thing about Nintendo. But anyway, now in terms of size,
that is annoying
because we're going on for quite a while now. So size-wise, it is bigger than the Switch, heavier than the Switch. It's something like 6 centimeters bigger than the Switch. For someone like me, who this isn't a euphemism or anything.
He's got massive hands, people.
Relatively big hands.
I can say
giant hands.
It's ridiculous. They're like, because you're like 6 foot tall, like 183-ish centimeters, right? We're all about the same height. But your hand, like I've got small hands. So I can.
Not small.
No, my hands are small.
His hands dwarf our hands.
Anyway.
Yeah,
it's
Swinny
ridiculous.
has normal size hands for his size. Like we're all about the same height.
Yeah.
Swinny has normal size hands for his height. I have small size hands for my height, right? You have like the opposite of me, which is massive size hands for your height. It's like ridiculous.
Yes.
I look like I got kid hands when I put my hands next to you.
But to all the ladies out there wondering, I have pretty average feet. Anyway, so what do we have? So we have, so it is, considerably bigger. For someone like me, I don't think that's going to be uncomfortable at all. I've never had an issue with the Switch being too heavy or anything like that. Not a problem at all. Smaller hands, kids, I don't know how that's going to work but I don't think this is targeted at that market.
Yeah, I don't see this targeted at the Pokemon crowd.
Exactly. So look, it's about 60% bigger and heavier than the Switch, which is a significant bump up. We talked about the dock. It is sold separately. I think it's going to be something that a lot of people probably get. I don't know if I'll get it at launch, because I do find with the Switch, I use it 99% of the time just by itself. But the fact that I can take this thing, plug it into my TV in the bedroom, continue playing the Witcher there, boom, it's perfect. Can't wait for that.
But given that it's a PC, and Valve weren't actually using their dock, they were using just a dock you could buy on Amazon.
Yes,
a USB-C dock. So they're all compatible. You can
just do that, yeah.
As opposed to the Switch, if you try to, use, like in the old days, if you used a different kind of dock, it was bricking Nintendo Switches. So
nuts.
Yeah, it's a totally different kind of paradigm. You can go buy a $40, $50 dock and not the official dock for cheap.
As Swinny said, it sounds like you can literally just plug in almost anything you want into this thing, and it's probably just going to work, which is fantastic. So I think that's sort of most of the stuff that I wanted to cover, or that I was going to cover. I think you were going to talk about some stuff around the Australian context more than anything else.
And did you cover like how some games won't work out of the box on this?
So we didn't talk about that. We basically just said it will play most modern games, but we know they've talked a little bit about compatibility there.
Yeah. Well, I think at this stage it is actually a big issue, because some of the most popular games on Steam are not playable out of the box currently. Now, whether they do some kind of special update which, can verify that it's a Steam Deck that you're playing on. So it's mostly like anti-cheat software that will not, because a lot of the anti-cheat software, they're really a rootkit on your system, which is kind of crazy that we all accept that that's what they do. And then the other one is some games don't have Linux support, like Rainbow Six Siege and things like that. So yeah, I'm really fascinated to see when this thing launches, how it goes, like with people installing Windows, and how does it actually run, and how compatible is Windows, because it's not built for it. Just on the Australian stuff. So I did a bit of research just about, Valve's history with Australia, which is very patchy, to be fair.
Is that because of our tax system? Is that because of our ACCC? Is that because of...
that. But then I think a lot of the practices that Valve have weren't also very fair, right? People buy games and they're broken. Like you can't even install it. And they refuse to give a refund. Like,
no,
it's crazy.
I'm just saying they probably have a pretty annoyed relationship.
Yeah, I think they hate Australia, honestly. I mean, Gabe recently escaped America to go to New Zealand, not Australia, right? So
that's what I was about to say. I think he's also now probably hates Australia even more, living in New Zealand.
That's true. He's got the Kiwi. Yeah, we have a very funny rivalry, Australia and New Zealand, but it's like brothers. It's more like brothers. I will never let anyone from New Zealand forget that New Zealand's in our constitution as a state. It's never been removed. Anyway, so it hasn't been confirmed for Australia for launch. They've said that more regions will be coming in 2022. The history has always been Australia is almost like the last on the queue. Like it will launch in South Korea before it will launch in Australia. In terms of Valve Link and the Valve controller, it took 1 year for that to be released in Australia from when it got released in the USA. And then the Index is even worse. So the Index was over 2 years it took to come to Australia as compared to when it launched in the US. So
damn.
I feel like at the best case scenario, you're talking about Christmas 2022, that this will be available in Australia. And it would not shock me if it's mid 2023, which is, I don't want to be a bit of a wet blanket, but I think that's reality.
Yeah, let's be real about it.
I also looked at the pricing. So, if you look at the Apples of the world and things like that, because Australia used to get ripped off big time, they've actually been pretty good recently. And normally it's you take whatever the US price is, convert it, then a GST, and it's, within sometimes 0% premium, sometimes it's 5-10%. It's all pretty reasonable. Whereas with Valve, everything they've released has had between 25 to 30% premium on top of converting and GST. So when you kind of go through that logic, looking at like the spot rate, all of those type of things, you're looking at, I think where they'll land is, the 64 gigabyte being $750 Australian, the 256 gigabyte being like $1,000, and then the 512 model being $1,250. Now, to wrap up the section, because it's been pretty long, let's just say that there are the prices: $750, $1,000, and $1,250. Okay. Are you buying this? Are you getting this when it launches?
Oh, hell yeah!
And what are you getting, Mike?
Look, I'll probably just go... I'm saying that now, but I'll probably go for the middle model.
How about you, Swinny?
This thing is super impressive, but I'm not going to get one for a few reasons. So, well, I don't think I will, I should say. First of all, the thing is so much heavier than the Switch, and I already find the Switch too heavy personally. And the only other thing is, like, have they talked about if this thing heats up? You know, is this thing going to end up freaking being super hot after you're playing it for 3 hours?
No, I haven't heard anything about that yet.
So,
well, no one's had a hands-on that would be able to satisfy that. Yeah,
that's why they said it's big. Sorry, that one of the reasons why. No, just to on that point, Digital Foundry were talking about this. One of the reasons why maybe it's so big as well is bigger surface area means more cooling. They might actually need that level of surface area.
So basically, because of that, and also I just can't find a need. Not that anyone needs this, but my gaming needs are fulfilled by what I've got at the moment, so I can't really find any justification. But it's fantastic, even with the koala tax on top. It's still a fantastic value, and it's an impressive machine from a technical standpoint. Yeah. So, but I just don't think it kind of fits my gaming lifestyle, honestly.
Yeah, I think for me, like, number one, if I was to get this, I would get the 512. There's no way I would get the 256. And like, one thing is, because I do so much handheld gaming, the anti-glare glass is actually massive. Like, that is not, everyone's like burying that, like, oh, that's nothing. That is actually like a massive thing. Like, that stuff makes it like pop so much more. And then also, just with a PC, it's not the same as a console. Console, they can strip things back. Whereas PC, it's like there's headroom that you need to account for with space. So 256 is like, you're not, like, if you want to treat this like a PC, I would never build a PC with 256 gigabytes.
That's a good point. That's a very good point. So, even if you could put extra stuff onto an SD card, and then SD cards, I would imagine performance will take a big hit.
Yeah. So, like, I'm thinking of it like I wouldn't get it otherwise if it's just like, it has to be the 512. And then the price actually does kind of like become a big factor for me because, you know, if I said this device is $5,000, you wouldn't buy it, right?
No.
So there is a price curve. And for me, it's like, man, if this was like the Australian equivalent, which is like, let's say $999 for the 64 gigabyte model, like at that stage, I feel like, I just kind of know myself well enough. And I love handheld so much. I'll probably just get it, right? Which is bad to say. But being $12.49 and maybe even higher, I'm like, I don't know, something about it. It's just,
well, that's almost at that point twice as much as a PS5.
It's
getting to that territory of being twice as much. Yeah. Which is,
and then I've already got a PC that's powerful, like more powerful than this, obviously. So then it really is just genuinely like, do I want a portable version of my computer? And it's like, I do, but I don't know if I want to pay that much.
I'll pay $1,000.
But it's amazing. I'm going to be so fascinated when it launches. And I don't know if you guys covered it, but the form factor though, I want to have hands-on experience with this because I think, I obviously counter to what most people are saying about it, I think it's horrible. I think the button placement's being all crammed up to the top right-hand side and the D-pad being all crammed up to the top left. It just looks disgusting.
That was my initial kind of like, but then, I mean, I heard from people that, hey, they thought the same, but when they actually got it hands on, it felt natural. So that's kind of alleviated a little of my concern.
But I look like I don't want to throw anyone under the bus, but there's a reason why they invite certain outlets. You know, they never say bad things about hands-on experiences with stuff. It's just the history of these people, right?
I guess, IGN sounded, not Ryan, the other dude whose name I don't know. He said a few negative, well, I wouldn't say negative, but a few critical things about it.
I'm trying to grab something.
It's gonna, I don't know. Look, I think time will tell. And I think it's not the final thing.
This is an audio podcast, Integot.
I'm probably one of the wackiest people to actually have a Wii U set up on my desk. And like, I can just grab it whenever I want.
Hey, is it wacky the fact that I've got it hooked up to my TV right now?
No, that's what I have as well. So I'm just holding up the gamepad, right? Which I don't hate, but
similar.
On launch, everyone's like, oh, this is great. And then over time, people really hate the placements of the sticks being right at the top corners. Like people would always complain about it after people keep playing it and they're just like, oh, it's just a really annoying location. And I look at the Steam Deck and I'm like, it is exactly like the Wii U being right up to the edges of the actual unit. So, but you need to play it. You need to have hands on. I want to see how it lands.
Here's the thing though, and maybe it's intentional in the sense that the right stick, they're maybe thinking that a lot of people are going to use it for games like FPSs or as a mouse or whatever, and they use the actual touchpad, which is offset. And I wonder if there's an element of intentionally placing the touchpad at the bottom because people will use it more than the actual stick. I don't know. We'll see. Time will tell. Because I can imagine that's more accurate for FPS games, things like that. But anyway,
I guess
I'm looking forward to this thing.
The one benefit of it coming to Australia so late is that we'll have the benefit of hearing what people say about it and what the quirks are, and we'll be very well informed in Australia before we have to pre-order it even.
And we pay for the privilege.
We do. The premium. We get it later and we pay 30% more. All right, let's move on to our next story. That was quite long. And this is something I'm really excited about, actually. Nickelodeon has announced a new platform fighter, so think Smash Brothers, featuring their iconic characters. The game is called Nickelodeon All-Star Brawl, and it has been rumored for a long period of time. It's following years of them dabbling in the fighting genre. But yeah, Swinny, I'm really excited about this, as the two people who are pretty Smash obsessed, coming to consoles this year in Q4. And then via Discord, which is weird. A lot of information actually came out of the developers' Discord. They're saying that there is going to be a PC release as well. So this is developed by Ludosity. Is that right? Ludosity?
I say Ludosity.
Yeah, Ludosity. So they're the creators of Slap City. And that is actually a very highly regarded kind of cult classic Smash alternative, very funny. There's heaps of really funny videos on Slap City just with the mechanics of it, but it's pretty actually similar to Melee actually. And the good thing that I was actually happy to hear that they've already acknowledged that, sort of saying that was Slap City, this is going to be a bit different, this is going to be its own thing. But to me, looking at it, looks very inspired by Ultimate, Smash 4 and Melee itself. And Brawl, of course, which is kind of almost named after.
If I didn't know, I'd be like, this is just a DLC for it.
Yeah. And I don't know, it just looks insane. You've got the trailer that we're playing in the background of the video, just all the characters that you'd expect to see from Nickelodeon, Nicktoons, the SpongeBob SquarePants, the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, for me, Our Real Monsters, that was really sick. Reptar from Rugrats. They seem to do a really smart job of, how do we try to hit on everyone's childhood? Because there's a lot of characters I don't know who they are, right? So it just feels like, if you're a kid of the 90s, 2000s or 2010s, you've got representation in this game. And then, Swinny, did you want to cover some of the cheating that people have done in terms of trying to figure out what other characters could be actually in this game?
Well, I mean, I like how we're going to spend more time on that than talking about the characters themselves that are actually confirmed.
I was going to go through that. I was swinging back. There's a method to the madness.
Okay.
There's a swinging back happening.
All right. Just
calm down.
Just screwing with my flow. So basically, there is the box art has silhouettes, and they've basically people been able to identify 4, potentially more, depending on how they bundle these characters up or not, more characters that essentially are pretty much confirmed at this point looking at the silhouette. So we've got Ren and Stimpy.
They're the most obvious to me, and the next one you're about to say at the bottom, I'm guessing. But even I looked at the silhouette, I'm like, wow, that's Ren. That's just so clear and obvious.
So whether or not that's 2 characters or one, we don't know. We've got Cat and Dog from Cat Dog.
That's cool.
We're at the very bottom, that'll obviously be one character as well. And then we've got Aang from Avatar, Last Airbender, and Korra from that universe as well, or the Legend of Korra as well. So pretty much characters we can pretty much mark off, which would have been expected as well. Yeah. Although Ren and Stimpy, if it wasn't for Powder Toast Man being on there, Ren and Stimpy honestly would have been a little bit up in the air because there's been a bit of issues with that series in the past. Yeah. But with Powder Toast Man being there and this silhouette, well, obviously it's happening. So, which is awesome.
Because I got to land on this spot, but Ren and Stimpy is so massive to me. I feel like this almost puts me over the line with the game to get it. Because I'm I want to play as Ren and Stimpy. That's just so cool.
And Cat Dog, man. I think other than The Loud House, it's maybe the only series I haven't really watched much. But everything else is so familiar, it's nuts.
And do you want to run through some of the characters, Swin?
Yeah, so the alphabetically we've got Danny Phantom from Danny Phantom. That's a character I'm not familiar with. You could obviously we're old bastards here, so we're going to lean
old.
towards the classic Nickelodeon. We've got Helga from Hey Arnold, which is great that she's announced and Arnold himself isn't yet. good old football head. We've got Leonardo from the Turtles. Got Lincoln Loud and Lucy Loud from the Loud House, who I'm not familiar with that show myself.
Yeah, same. Maybe never came out here.
Michelangelo is the only other turtle that's been announced, and there's been some rumblings in Discord. They said they're not just going to include characters to complete a set, so it's possible we might not get the other turtles. We don't know.
Which kind of annoys me because Donatello is my favorite turtle.
Raphael's mine, so
that's awesome. So, I love it. So we're all represented.
You can take over while I refresh my face.
Yeah, cool. So Nigel Thornberry.
Michelangelo is my favorite. Yeah, go Mike.
So again, like just to emphasize, I'm very old, so I only know the ones that are really started in the 90s. But Nigel Thornberry. I actually don't know who Nigel Thornberry is, but it seems like everyone else does. From the Wild Thornberries.
Huge meme.
Oblina. Yeah. From Our Real Monsters, which I love that show. And
that's probably my favorite inclusion.
Yeah,
so
that's right up there. Patrick Star from SpongeBob SquarePants, Powder Toast Man, as Swinny mentioned before, from Ren and Stimpy, Reptar from Rugrats, which I thought that's such a cool inclusion. It could I love the way they've chosen the characters for this because it's not necessarily just the most obvious ones.
I'm glad that they announced it because initially they said he was too big.
Nice little smash joke there. I like it. Sandy Cheeks from SpongeBob SquarePants, SpongeBob himself, which I'm sure is going to be like the most popular character, and then Zim from Invader Zim, which I don't know either. So there's a lot that I don't know.
So a certain friend of ours that I shall not mention is a massive fan of Invader Zim, and he was very happy to hear that.
Okay.
I was going to mention a certain friend of ours as well. Mark my words, he's going to pick that character.
You idiot.
So one of my favorite quotes from the devs was they said that in the Kotaku interview that Nigel Thornberry edge guarding is a goal all to itself, which I think is just amazing because he's such a meme character. I never watched the shows, when I was younger or anything, but that character was already a meme, so it's amazing. But look, of the characters that we haven't talked about, I mean, the ones that I would most look forward to being added to this game would be, first of all, anyone from Rocko's Modern Life. That is my favorite Nickelodeon show. And the only other one is the Angry Beavers. They would be a cool inclusion. So
I just love how we're having these conversations. It's like, because we always joke, Swinny and I, especially around Smash, and are they going to include Goku or something like that? But there's a whole other tier of characters. Like, are they going to add SpongeBob SquarePants to Smash? That they're not. But it's this game. They're all in the Nick universe. But I mean, it does give you a platform for DLC, right?
Well, they have had Shrek show before, aired on Nickelodeon.
It's part of Viacom. It's like one of the IP. Like, for them, it wouldn't cost any money to have Shrek in this game. So, that's what I'm saying. I feel like this game, I don't know, I'm pretty hyped about this game, actually. It sounds insane. I'm hyped about a Nickelodeon brawler. But number one, I love Smash. It's probably my favorite now, fighting, how do you say it, Swinny? Kind of like style, like fighting game style, like platform fighter. And then just, having a totally different cast of characters, and then do we cover the rollback net code?
No, so that's all
of
the details that you skipped over to rush to the silhouettes.
Silhouettes are the juicy parts, that. I'm just giving the audience what they want.
So basically, let me take control of that then. So the game will have, as expected, online and co-op. So they specifically said co-op modes. So I don't know whether that means just team matches and stuff, but we'll have single player modes as well. They said you'll be able to unlock new moves for the characters. So I don't know if it's like a Smash 4 situation where you can have custom moves, but then in competitive play, they'll just have a standard set of moves that is tournament legal and such like that. It's crazy we're talking about Nickelodeon Fighter being tournament legal. We'll feature over 20 levels, including Jellyfish Fields from SpongeBob, the Technodrome. I think there's a sewer level for the Turtles as well. There's a bunch of others in the trailer. And this is where you're talking about that they will be implementing rollback netcode where possible, particularly for 1v1 matches. And I've heard a lot of speculation that They made some mention that kind of alluding to the fact that it may not be on the Switch.
I think that's not the devs though. I think that's just the community speculation.
No, there was a comment from the devs that kind of people
that's new. Okay,
they know, but they didn't state that. But they didn't specifically say it. But it was very much kind of inferred that they were talking about the Switch. But we don't know. Like until we get the official confirmation, that's not the kind of stuff that you're going to hear about in these initial announcements. You know, just like the fact that they're in the Discord, they also stated that the game will have wave dashing mechanics. You know, so Map City did. So. Yeah,
and I mean, that's like what we're talking about now is getting ultra niche for fighting game stuff. But essentially, like rollback netcode is all about, you know, being more accurate and predictive to what, you know, the moves I did on my end and what your end are, and as much as possible lining those things up. But just on rollback netcode, it also isn't magic. So if there is like a lot of packet loss, a lot of delay, a lot of issues, people like on Wi-Fi, all that kind of stuff, it can't just magically make the game perfect, right? So I can kind of understand with Smash, it's like you go to a lot of effort and then, you know, some people just play on Wi-Fi anyway, even if they can play on LAN. So, you know, like what's the point of...
Who would do such a thing?
I didn't. I just wanted to leave it at that level and move on. Right. But, you know, I kind of get the devs. It's like, why put all the effort in when 70% of your player base is playing via Wi-Fi, you know, because they don't have a LAN port or people don't use it. So, yeah, like, but it's just, it feels like so good on handheld, you know. This is why you need the Steam Deck. This is why you need the Steam Deck. This would be a great game on the Steam Deck because you can play it on PC with rollback netcode.
And I just saw a comment as well. The PC version will have GameCube adapter support, so that's cool.
Oh, geez. But I don't want to miss out on the hype early. That's the problem, right? That's how they get you. No, I'm really pumped about this. This looks really, really cool. All right, Netflix. I mean, this week has been a bit nutty with gaming. So Bloomberg is reporting that Netflix is making big moves to begin offering video games as part of their service in 2022. So this includes hiring a whole bunch of people and advertising a whole bunch of positions, including Mike Vidu from EA, Oculus, Zynga, as a VP for game development. So this isn't like, you know, how do we bring in other games to the service? This is building their own games, very Netflix style, as they have done with their own IPs, bringing in TV shows and movies that haven't existed, and then really, you know, having a differentiated product offering. So previously they'd licensed some of their IP to then other parties to make games, including Stranger Things 3, the game. Have produced, you know, Castlevania and other animated shows with Splinter Cell and Cuphead. I forgot about Cuphead, actually. That's pretty cool. That's on the way. But boys, like, Mike, you know, what do you think this is going to be? Is this going to be like in the TV browser? Are you going to be able to add a controller? What do you think it's going to shape up as?
And there's so little known about it, I think, at this point. I would imagine what makes the most sense, but I don't know if it's going to work that well, is exactly that it's just part of their streaming service. You get a controller. So that when you think about what they did a while back with Boulder, no, what was that?
Black Mirror.
Called? With the Black Mirror special episode.
Bandersnatch,
that's the one, where you could choose what to do next. I mean, I know that's a very simplistic version of it, but in a way it was almost like playing an interactive choose your own adventure kind of game. Now,
well, and I wouldn't say it's simple.
Different.
They said that they could have either made a whole season of Black Mirror or that one episode. That was the choice for them. And they chose to make that one episode.
Well, no, I can. What I mean is, it's definitely wouldn't have been simple. But I mean, a format like that as a game, if you could think of it as a game, compared to integrating a controller, having no lag, well, minimal lag, it's a different kind of thing. I think it's a completely different ballpark. So, can they achieve that through a streaming service? Man, I have no idea. I don't know, but it'd be the ideal way to do it if you could.
If Telltale hadn't gone under, we would have already been at that point, I think, because they were already working with them on a bunch of that stuff. And then Telltale obviously went the way of the dodos. So, but yeah, no, this is definitely, from all reports, is part of the streaming, you know, service or the subscription that you get. I think that at some point they like for them to launch something separate, I think would just be like, well, then you've already got Amazon Luna that no one's talking about. You've already got Facebook Gaming that's on the horizon. You've already got obviously Stadia and xCloud and PS Now and all these other kind of things. Whereas if it's part of the same ecosystem, then people don't feel like something, they feel like it's just an addition. And I think they're more likely to try it out because obviously they don't have to potentially pay for it, depending on what the model is. So
well, I guess
last thing I was going to say was the reports are also saying that they're potentially looking at this as a way to then lead up to eventual price increases for the subscription in general as well, because, or at least tier levels, maybe, okay, the high tier gets you access to the game part or something, you know.
I guess to clarify the question, is a game like Destiny 2, which is available on everything, Stadia, Luna, every single platform has Destiny 2. Is a game like Destiny 2 going to be available through Netflix? I guess that's the question I have.
I think that they will potentially do a mix like they do with their programming. You know, they'll have their Netflix original style games that they produce, and then they'll have a bunch of, to fill out the library, you know, they'll have stuff that is probably, I don't know if they'll get the big AAAs. They'll probably go for maybe like things like Limbo style games and stuff like that. I'm just thinking like what would make sense to fill out a library that's not going to, I don't think they're competing directly here with, you know, any of the existing services. They're kind of trying to do something unique, I think.
But you do think that a game like Destiny 2 could come to the service?
Possibly, yeah.
Oh, it could, yeah. And
interesting.
I think because that's proven to work well, Stadia. Now, I don't know the tech behind Netflix and how that's going to work, but assuming they could get to that point, then we know that that stuff is viable. So
I think the question then for me becomes, because Apple has blocked explicitly xCloud as an app, right? Because it's offering games. What are they going to do in Netflix? Like, how are they going to handle that situation? Because I would be shocked if they create a separate app called like Netflix Gaming. That doesn't make any sense to me. It would be like you go in your Netflix app like normal, and there'll just be like new pop-ups that say, hey, do you want to play these games? These games work well on TV with a remote, or hey, you need to grab a controller for these games, you know, and sync it up. But then what is Apple going to do? Like, I feel like Apple...
I know they could potentially use Bandersnatch or any kind of, like, they could basically say, we've already had this equivalent, an interactive experience through our service, you know.
Yeah, I think the smart thing to do would be introduce all the Bandersnatch style games first, because then how's Apple going to argue against that? You already had a Bandersnatch, right? Yeah. Get that filled out and then go to the next level, which is like, oh, you know, in these games you can use a controller, but it's still Bandersnatch style. And then it's like you go, oh, and then there's Destiny 2. And then like take Apple to court at that point. Because Apple's kind of screwed themselves. It's like they've allowed Flex and then...
Yeah, it's Flex, but it's not a game.
Well, Bandersnatch is a game in my view. It's interactive.
It's an interactive medium, but it's not a game.
That's what a game is to me. But I like this is a 5-hour conversation.
Got nothing to do with us, yeah. Well, this is a 5-month court case, but yeah.
That's the Zoe Quinn argument. Let's not get into that stuff. So.
All right, but yeah, I'm actually excited to see when this comes out. Just to see how it goes. More options for gaming, the better. It's better for gaming. So I'm all for it. In our next story, it's a tragedy in my eyes. I asked Swinny for this to be the headliner. He rejected it as the editor-in-chief of the show. And, you know, I've you know, taken my... Oh, shit, it's actually gone up. I've got to lower my amiibo flag to half-mast. You can barely see that with the bokeh blur that I have.
I can see the edge of the flag there.
You can see that my flag is now at half-mast.
Yes.
Because
we can officially confirm integot is at half-mast.
Because the beautiful Zelda Loftwing amiibo has potentially been lost at sea.
What?
So in the US, there's been a massive problem with the amiibos coming out. Amiibos, look at that. Amiibo coming out for Skyward Sword HD, obviously. And most people, like it seems like 80+% of people cannot get their amiibo. It's been delayed and hasn't even been shipped from the warehouse. There's a lot of confusion there. And it seems like maybe the shipment has, you know, sunk or been lost or like just gone missing. And the way that Nintendo goes is that they will not go and reproduce this just because of this. They don't care. Like, that's not their style. So
hey, go to the ocean and fish it.
It's kind of interesting because they've sold out in Australia, obviously, but they're already going for like triple the price in Australia, which is a bit unusual.
And they were already more expensive than their normal amiibo.
Yeah. It's a really good amiibo. I've got it here in the background, of course.
People.
Oh, well, what's this?
Crazy collectors.
It's nice. It's a really nice one.
How did you get your hands on one?
I have my special connections.
All right. Integot has just avoided all my jokes written in the run sheet, right? And I stated in here that only a small portion of amiibo have been made available to amiibo influencers.
Well, I'd like to think he is an amiibo influencer.
Integot is now an amiibo influencer.
He is officially an amiibo influencer.
I was going to say influencer, but that sounds horrible.
Can you please put the flag back to full mast?
No, that'll be later tonight. It's just so unfortunate because people are obsessed about this amiibo because this amiibo.
Just keep showing it off.
I know.
Well, it's just relevant that we're talking about it.
I feel like I need a Mario watch or something to show up now, just to top it.
Well, we're going to get to that, what I've done this week about it. You guys are going to be shocked. So, yeah, with this has the functionality, the feature that doesn't come in the game, which is you can go to the sky from a dungeon and then return back, which is not in the game normally. Now, I have not used the amiibo. I haven't opened it up. I don't think you need to use that. Like, I know that people are saying, oh, you can go back to the sky and refill your hearts and all that kind of stuff. The game is not like, doesn't put obstacles in front of you like that anyway. Like, you die, you just get back into it. You can just keep playing. So I don't really understand that. I don't think you need to use it. It's convenient, but I think it's just people getting a bit frustrated with it. But yeah, so it's very sad.
Says the man who happens to be one of the only people who has an amiibo, so he doesn't give a shit. It's like, all of you peasants, don't worry, you don't need this.
At least one, because I think I've got another one over there.
Oh my god,
hasn't been open yet.
God. Just imagine the poor kid that's crying, and you've got two of them. You're a monster, and it's still. And my writing is wasted on you. Just, the fact that basically, you've ignored all my jokes in the run sheet. You didn't read any of it. You didn't talk about the fact that the amiibo % speedrunner community is in tatters.
That was a funny joke. I did find that funny. I was going to loop back to that. I'm not going to talk about amiibo influencer. I know you guys are just going to say I'm the amiibo influencer.
Crisis of people not being able to cheat in the game now.
Yes.
I do. It was a little bit embarrassing because I did realize, and I don't want to say this because I know someone on the show is going to want one, but I didn't realize I actually have 2 Dark Souls amiibo.
We are fans of the show. Integot has just announced he's giving away
one
of his Dark Souls amiibos.
Hey, that's like giving away a lot of money.
First person.
Not crazy.
Hey, you want to promote the show or not?
All right. If the show gets to like 10,000 people, I'll do it.
Okay. The 10,000th subscriber, which I'm not sure how we figure that out because I don't know if it tells you the numbers.
No, it doesn't.
We'll get. Are you calling this now? They're going to get one of the Dark Souls amiibos?
Well, I put it in a competition.
You want to do this?
This is years away, if in the best case scenario. Anyway, yeah.
Come on, throw it out there. Let's do this.
I do feel bad. This is mostly in the US, and I feel bad if people can't get this amiibo in the end. Especially
I feel bad too, especially when people like you get 2 of them.
I know you.
Wanker.
Fucking asshole.
Why am I an asshole? I'm just buying things. I cannot buy things.
Well, you have your sneaky special sources that the rest of us don't have access to.
No, I know.
Got my bots to do it.
Because you're sleeping with someone at EB.
You're amiibo line cutter. That's what you are.
All right. Well, let's go to more capitalistic stuff.
Yes.
With Mario and tag Heuer. Do you say Heuer or Heuer?
Heuer. I don't know.
I used to know how to. When I worked in investment banking, I knew how to say this, and now I've forgotten again.
Hey, I was expecting you to go.
Oh, okay, yeah,
and show it off.
Yeah. On an audio podcast, I'm not going to do that. So yeah, like we did have this in the Minute Mic section last week. Although you probably can't hear anything that's said in that section. It's going so quick. But essentially, they've done a collab with Tag, and there's only 2,000 watches available worldwide. It retails for Australian about $3,000, $2,000 US, which is
I wouldn't say
crazy.
Available worldwide. Where available worldwide? Where is probably the key.
Oh, you
word
mean
here.
were?
It's good luck.
You're saying where?
Where? As in, like, where available past tense? Because I don't think you can get
I
your
love
hands on one
how
now.
you correct me
Sold out.
by fucking up and saying the wrong word.
No, that's just it. Hey,
That's just
English is third
pronounce
language.
shit.
Come on.
Yeah.
Oh, wait.
Cut me some slack.
How long have you been speaking English for? 20 years?
Give or take.
Yeah, exactly.
Maybe.
And yeah, it's already sold out, which is insane to me. Now, so yeah, like, and we should say like some of the features of the watch. So it's actually a smartwatch, not a like analog watch, which to me is a massive negative.
Huge negative. Yeah, it's part of the Tag Heuer connected line of smartwatches.
Yeah. And there's 4 exclusive Mario watch faces. There's a whole thing around step goals and getting motivated. So it's based on Google's Wear OS. But I don't know, like if you're going to buy a tag, you'd want it to be a watch. You know, I've got like an Omega watch from my grandfather, and you know, that's something that eventually I want to give to my son, right? And that lasts, right? This is not something you could pass on because I bought the original Apple Watch and it's kind of like DOA really now, you know, it's like it's dead because the battery just doesn't last. So what are you going to do with this? Like when the battery dies, can you replace it?
Oh, you can. It's going to cost you like $500 from Tag.
But then also the technology is going to be so old, you know what I mean? Like, I don't know.
Yeah, it's going to get a firmware upgrade and the whole thing's going to run like shit, just like every other smartwatch.
I guess my question is to you guys is like, do you think that this in like, say, 15 years time is going to be worth 10, 20 grand? Because it's so unique and it's 2000 and...
Yes, purely because of the exclusivity. It's Mario and it's exclusive. And we just, you know, the previous segment was about you buying amiibos that are worth 3 times the amount without anyone even, that, you know, they're not even technically sold out, really.
No, I bought it at retail, Australian retail. Just make sure it's in another clip. So it's in 2 clips now.
So I don't know. It's a really interesting one. I think purely... Yes, it's a smartwatch, and if this was an actual proper physical watch, I think it would be worth way more in terms of its ability to hold its value and in fact go up in price. Because it's a smartwatch, you know, a bunch of these are going to stop working probably in a few years, which may be not a negative thing. It means that whatever is remaining will actually be worth something. I wonder how many people, given that it's so exclusive and it costs so much money, are actively going to be using these. So I think a lot of them are probably going to be kept in pretty good condition, purely from collectors. I think, you know, forking out 3,000 Australian dollars on a watch is a bit of a collector thing in there as well, no doubt. So I don't know. I think it will. I think they'll be worth something purely because of the exclusivity. But here's the funny thing. There is nothing stopping them from re-releasing these, like a second version of them or something, in the future. And that makes you then wonder, well, are the originals worth more now? Is it going to be like Lego where they do a re-release of the same set? And the original is now not worth as much, but then there's some people who want the original just because of the collector's thing. I don't know. Time will tell. But it's just, I don't know. I personally think it's a shame that it's not an actual physical watch. That would get me way more interested, I think, than it being a smartwatch that just it stops being useful in like 2-3 years usually.
I'm just shocked. Why are we talking so long about a fucking Mario watch being worth a lot in the future? It just seems crazy to me. It's like, it's cool.
Collector's things.
But it's just like, I just think it's kind of absurd, honestly. So.
Well, it kind of, for the price, it absolutely is. Well, I think it's absurd paying $3,000 for a smartwatch when every single other smartwatch is a fraction of that price. But that's even the base price. So it's not that just the Mario one is $3,000. The Tag Heuer connected line is pretty bloody expensive to begin with. And I think they're massively overpriced. Yes, they're nice devices and everything, but really you kind of get a similar functionality from just about any other smartwatch. You just don't get the status of, hey, look at me, I'm an investment banker, check it out, kind of thing, you know? Like,
yeah, I think if you're going to go for a smartwatch, you want to go for like the absolute cheapest one because...
Sorry, was that your integot impression?
Yeah, pretty much. He's an asshole. I don't even have to like...
Hey, I'm not the asshole. You're the asshole that buys too many amiibos. So
I'm allowed to buy amiibo.
Poor crying children screaming at their parents and cry. There it is, showing it again. You guys can't see this because he forgets that this is an audio podcast as well. He keeps showing off his limited exclusive amiibo
he's going to show both now. He's going to show
sucked
both.
someone off at EB Games to get a copy of.
He's going to show both of them. Look at this.
No, he's going to show both.
Look at this. Oh man. You got to include that in the bloody video thumbnail, please.
You know the subreddit, am I the asshole? When I visit that, it just says yes. That's all it shows on the screen, yes.
No one else can get these amiibo and I have two, am I the arsehole?
Yeah, I just load that page, yes. There's nothing else. No threads or anything.
No, it's, what is it, YTA? That's it, you're the arsehole.
Let me just go to Wikipedia.
All right. Let's
/asshole.
No. Let's move on. So our final story. The proposed Australian lootbox legislation. So a new bill has been introduced in the Australian Parliament proposing legislation to ban video game companies from targeting minors with loot boxes. So this was first reported by the Daily Telegraph after our show finished recording. So it's called the Classification Amendment Lootbox Bill. And it is expected to be in the House of Reps in mid-August. So this is proposed by the independent Tassie MP, Andrew Wilkie. He has had a history of being very anti-gambling, especially anti-pokies, which I'm pretty supportive of. The proposed legislation would limit the sale of games containing loot boxes to people above the age of 18 and add an advisory rating to the classification, clarifying that they contain loot boxes. In terms of Wilkie, he argues that the loot box mechanics would groom children for future gambling. Quote, not clear if that's what gaming companies design, but it's self-evident that they have had that effect. We are a country that accepts that people over the age of 18 can gamble, but let's make that for adults and giving parents a warning, and then to allow very young children to pay cash for randomized events that may or may not reward them would meet the definition of gambling. So, I mean, in a way, I think this is probably simpler. I think we all agree with this. Do we not?
Yeah, I totally agree with this. Hell, I would take it one step further and go, screw you, completely de-legalize loot boxes, period. You know, just because you're 18, okay, wow. So suddenly you turn 18 and all of a sudden your capacity to have free will and make good life choices and not be addicted to gambling is different. No, it isn't. I get that you don't want to groom kids. Absolutely. So this is the first step in doing this. But I think this needs to go one step further. I am like super against the pokies. I hate them with a passion.
You left-wing pinkos.
No, absolutely. I stopped.
Seriously.
I mean, I don't know if Coles is any better, but I stopped shopping at Woolies purely because God, he's back with his bloody amiibos. I stopped shopping at Woolies purely because they owned all the poke chains. Well, not all the poke chains, you know what I mean? They own a whole bunch of poke chains.
It's a big part of the business.
And as a result of that, I'm like, screw you, Woolies. I'm not partaking in that. Now, I did, small thing. Most people don't give a shit about that. Fair enough, whatever. But I know heaps of other people, and I know people that were affected by this directly. So this, to me, yes, we're all in agreement, absolutely. And I think it's an awesome first step in ensuring that...
Well, hang on. We agree with the loot box bill. Like, we don't agree with everything that you just said.
We agree with the loot box bill specifically. The fact that making sure that children aren't targeted by this and making sure that children don't fall into the trap of thinking that this is an acceptable behavior and getting into that behavior to then have the issues later in life. And, we're not talking about... Pokies is not... I'm not necessarily completely against gambling. I'm not against someone going to a casino, playing some blackjack or playing some poker. I think poker is an interesting game. Fair enough. I think people can fall into really big traps with that as well. But I am purely talking about pokies. They're completely 100% random. You sit in front of a screen and you just keep pressing a fucking button until something happens. That is what I'm talking about. Turning people into zombies like that is completely fucking unacceptable. And I think I am surprised that there aren't laws in place yet, that it took this long for something like this to actually happen, and that action is so slow for something that has such a fundamentally massive impact on people's lives when they grow up. It's huge. It destroys families. It literally kills people. And we're fine with this kind of stuff. And it's unacceptable.
Unfortunately, this bill is not to limit pokies. It's to limit loot boxes. But I 100% agree with everything.
Yes, let's go back to that.
So when I saw the headline, I didn't know what this was, who was proposing what, and when I read it was Andrew Wilkie, I was like, fuck, because he has a history of being able to actually make stuff happen. He's been able to like be the balance of power and get, you know, I don't know where everything's sitting at the moment, but in the past with Julie Gillard and everything, like, you know, they had to actually kind of work with him on a lot of stuff that he was wanting because of the balance of power and everything. And that's why I'm really, really positive that this may actually, because we've got to remember, this is a bill being introduced. You know, it doesn't mean that it's actually going to happen. It's going to obviously take a lot of work to get it to happen. But I can't see a lot of people with the Australian government being such a nanny state in a lot of ways. This almost seems like something that would actually get support from both sides. But the only thing is, obviously, there's a lot of games out there, specifically your FIFAs and everything, that would be the biggest impacted by this, that would obviously have massive, well, what's the term? You know, people influencing certain decision makers and stuff. I can't remember the political term for it, but off the top of my head.
Lobbying?
Yeah,
lobbying, that's right. Yeah, so it would have a lot of lobbyists kind of pushing for that stuff, but I'm so happy that this, to me, it's strange that it's taken this long to get to this point. So.
Yeah, and I mean, the lobbyists definitely have influence, but it's at least not as bad as the US or the UK or EU. You know, I've got friends who are lobbyists, actually, and it's like they hate that they can't do what they do in the States. Like in the States, there's a track of like, you're an MP, like for our equivalent, like you're a politician, and then you know you're going to get a job with the lobbyist after. So you got to actually help them out, right? Or else you're not going to get that job in the future. So you're already like bought into their viewpoint. Whereas in Australia, that doesn't happen. So
democracy.
Well, they're trying to do that. Like more and more, you can actually see former politicians are becoming like, I won't mention who, but they're becoming senior members of effectively lobbyists now. So then it's already trying to create that dynamic in Australia, which I think is very toxic to our democracy. I'm fully supportive of this. It's kind of I do feel a bit like weird about it because Australia is horrible with rating games. Like it's been one of the most immature jurisdictions, not having an 18 rating for such a long period of time, banning games. Like I think we have the most banned games out of any country outside of like really nutty countries that I think we ban more games than Germany. They're mostly specifically around like Nazi stuff or, certain type of blood and stuff like that in some of their games. But yeah, like I'm not a big fan of leaning into that, but for this, like I'm pretty supportive. Like,
yeah. Well, I think it is a different element. Sorry, Swinny. Banning games that you have no direct correlation or proof between a particular game causing a very negative side effect. So say, for example, you ban a violent game. There's been many studies done. There is no real correlation between violent games and people acting out violence in real life or becoming more violent, etc. So exactly why you're banning that particular thing is the question, especially to people that are 18 plus. Whereas when it comes to gambling, there are very, very much many pieces of research, don't ask me to quote them, but I know they exist, that do show the link. And they do show the link of getting kids involved with this kind of stuff at an early age and the impact it has later in life. So to me, this is a completely different thing. To me, this is a clear cut, yes, ban this thing, make sure that kids don't have access to this kind of stuff. It's a totally different thing than, an 18-year-old shouldn't be able to play Sextris or something. Well, dude, come on, seriously? Like, yeah, at that age, they can make their own decisions like that, and it doesn't have a negative impact.
If this goes ahead, I'm really interested to see what this means for the mobile market, because that is where it is the most embedded. It's one thing to say FIFA or whatever. Like a lot of we've kind of had examples of that stuff being done in Europe already, where they just kind of remove mechanics, whereas you can't remove loot boxes from. Like, what about gacha games and stuff? Like that's
it's a core mechanic.
Yeah. So does that just mean they're just not sold on Australian stores? So,
that is
downloadable by Australians.
That is going to expose the flaw that we have in our system, which is if you make a PS5 game and you want to sell it in retail, like in EB Games for us in Australia, it has to go through the classification board to get approval. Whereas if you sell it on Steam, you self-rate it. So you go, Disco Elysium, it's like an MA rating. And they have it on the store and they still sell it, even though it's actually been banned in Australia. It never got removed, like from Steam. So I think the mobile market will stay exactly the way it is, even though it'd be actually contravening the law in Australia. And maybe you'll get the big publishers like the Activisions, EAs, will pull the games out of Australia just because they're legally more careful. But I think the bigger players won't even give a shit. So it's kind of like, I do wonder if it's going to have the effect that they wanted to have. But honestly, like, I'd love to see something change. Like, FIFA and games like that, I wouldn't mind playing them, but they're so geared to the Ultimate Team that I don't even touch them.
Just quickly, we're not going to mention it outside of this, but just the recent news overnight that apparently that crypto thing of all the PS4s that they found, and apparently, there's been a lot of misinformation and misreporting around this. Apparently, it was actually being used to farm FIFA Ultimate Team accounts. That's why there's so many game discs in the photos. Because why would you need game discs if you're using it for something like that? But
I read that article.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
It wasn't any, because the people did stipulate that PS4 is really useful for crypto mining. Really, that's gotta be better ways of doing it.
Whereas you could see have something automatically running just to earn the free stuff and then sell as accounts.
Wow.
Anyway, that's a separate thing, but that's just FIFA Ultimate Team is that's something.
It's a $1 billion a year revenue maker. It's kind of crazy, but all right, let's get into our new favorite segment of the week, the Minute Mike. So we will jump in it quickly by basically wrapping up the news. Mike has 1 minute to cover everything. If he does not get through it all, then the alarm will go off. He needs to stop, and then we are moving on to Swinny as the Minute Swinny. So
1 minute for the Swin. Can I just say, Mike, we haven't gone too overboard this week.
Yeah, this week seems a bit light on.
No, but what I was going to say, maybe try to make it a bit more listenable. Then so maybe use the extra time you got.
Sure.
We'll give it a little bit of context there, because Swinny and I were talking about one story we didn't cover, and I go, why are we covering this? This was the first update in the Minute Mike last week, and then he was just like, I didn't even hear it. It was just like going as fast as he can.
Well, you two never pay attention to anything I say, so it's probably got something to do with it.
Just like the listeners. All right, let's get into the intro.
I don't want no Minute Man.
All right. So, Tango Gameworks' Ghostwire Tokyo has been delayed until 2022. Ubisoft's Riders Republic has also seen another delay to October this year. Lastly, Rainbow Six Extraction has also been delayed to January 2022. Relic and Saga have announced Company of Heroes 3 coming to PC next year. Battlefield 2042 has confirmed crossplay, but last-gen consoles can only play against each other. Boo! Xbox will be adding features that allow parents to limit microtransactions for their kids. Fantastic. Xbox head Phil Spencer has also confirmed they're considering a revision of the Xbox controller. Ooh, wow. I think they're talking about adding those little haptic feedbacks. Tetsuya Nomura revealed that story outline for Final Fantasy X3 actually exists. The digital-only QuakeCon 2021 event will take place from the 19th to the 21st of August, and a copy of Super Mario 64 has nearly doubled last week's auction record, selling for 1.56 million USD. Fraud.
What's the
alarm? Maybe, allegedly.
No, I don't play it. The whole point is to never play the alarm.
He didn't finish it.
Yes, I did.
I did.
Did he?
It was 3 seconds.
I finished it.
Look at you trying to throw him under the bus.
Wait, what was the last thing you said?
USD.
Why you not listen?
No,
Why
that's
you
not the last. USD's not the last thing in there.
Oh, that's what it is on mine.
Yeah, that's on mine as well.
There's two lines there.
No, you haven't reshaped it. No.
It wasn't reshaped.
Yeah, that's your fault, Swinny.
No, it was on my screen. I saw that.
Nah, that wasn't on mine. It wasn't on mine.
I didn't see it either. Sorry, I swear I didn't see it.
Yeah, for me, it was that's why he was taking his time.
Yeah, because I'm like, wow, this is easy this week. Shit.
Controversy strikes the Minute Mike.
Wow, what happened? But
I
didn't see it.
Wait, I'm not joking. On my screen, you could see the whole thing.
No, I believe you.
But on mine, I couldn't, and integot couldn't either.
Yeah, Mike and mine are exactly the same.
All right, we'll make sure there's extra space so that won't happen again in the future.
I think that's a good call for everything.
We should very, very quickly say that Summer Games Done Quick 2021 raised $2.8 million US
by the way.
for Doctors Without Borders. Don't touch it. And the trailer app for Abandoned will be available for preload on the 29th of July, which is in about 10 days. I have no idea what this extra bit is, with the trailer being released late August.
Wait, where has it gone?
No, because I was trying to resize the thing, and then it moved the whole thing down.
Right. There was a problem. The cell that you were trying to edit may have been moved or deleted. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, so that's why I wouldn't assume that was fine because I could see the whole thing on my screen.
It all makes sense now,
weird.
like why you reacted like that. You're like, why is the alarm? Because we've never heard.
I was about to like scream out what it was going to say because I know it was going to happen.
Yeah, no, with the abandoned one, it's kind of funny actually. Like it is getting preloaded, like in the next few weeks, and then
the most stupid shit ever. I'm sorry, like,
it's really weird. Like
a trail, what? And then you're preloading a trailer app that then's going to go live, and then the trailer will go live a month later.
So
what the hell is this shit?
But I don't know why Sony's playing ball with this. I'm really like landing on the side of like Team Fake. Like the whole thing's like nothing really that big about it. So the developer said that they want to be able to show like a 4K highest resolution HDR version of the trailer. And YouTube, everything doesn't allow that. So you could play something of that high quality on the PlayStation 5 directly. So I'm like, that makes sense. Like I get it, but the whole thing doesn't make sense in general. Like what he's saying is right, but I don't understand it. You know what I mean?
But surely, like, why wouldn't other companies have done that before?
I know. It's weird.
Anyway,
it's weird.
All right, enough about this. Let's get to the bargain bin.
Yeah, all right. So the bargain bin for the week commencing the 18th of July, just double checking. So this is a quick one this week. Epic Games Store, Free Games, Abduction, and Off-World Trading Company, both on PC this week. On the Switch, so on Amazon Australia, check to see if it's still available because they often come in and out of discount. But so Mario Kart 8 Deluxe is $59 and Skyward Sword is $68. Swinny, what did you want to say?
I finally picked up Mario Kart 8. I finally got it.
Sweet. We should play it. I love that game.
I have got it.
Yeah, let's play it. Like, I love that game so much. Digital highlights are Torchlight 2 for $18 until the 21st of July and Saturday Morning RPG for $2.40 until the 29th of July. No highlights for PlayStation or Xbox this week.
There's one thing I'll just say. It's kind of like potentially upcoming. So there was a patch to the PC version of Lightning Returns, which is the third in the trilogy of Final Fantasy 13. And people are speculating that is because, well, I guess to step back a second. So we know that the 3 Final Fantasy 13 games are coming to Game Pass at some point because they announced that last year. They said they would,
yeah.
Mm-hmm. So the fact that the PC version got a patch means it's very likely that at least Lightning Returns, but hopefully the whole trilogy will be getting added to Game Pass very soon. Potentially, I wouldn't be surprised in the next month.
So. That was the one that had all the linear levels, right? Like literally.
Well, Lightning Returns specifically that we're talking about is the one that's like Majora's Mask, where it's on a time loop and stuff. But the one you were talking about, the first Final Fantasy 13, is criticized for being very linear for most of the game. Yes,
the one that I have a collector's edition copy of that I paid $140 for, played for about 2 hours and went, "This is fucking shit." And forgot about that game.
All right, I'm conscious that we are running long, so let's get into our first feature, which is our review of Ender Lilies. So
your review of Ender Lilies.
Well, Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Nights. I will be reviewing it for Vooks. Mike, you've beaten the game, and Swinny, you have been the drug peddler. You got us both into this game.
I know.
Yeah, well, he doesn't. And then bailed. I'm like, they're hooked now.
He doesn't do. He's a good drug dealer. He doesn't use his own supply. He's smart.
He kind of did in this case. I guess he's doing it with us. We're in a circle. He does a shot, and then he's like, I've got the willpower to not continue.
What he said he did, but maybe all he did was watch some YouTube videos, pretended that he actually played the game just to get us hooked on it. Doesn't even own the game.
Don't expose our secrets.
So I'll read the line that he wrote just because he's been hammering me the whole episode on it. So the Bigwig crew take the plunge into the ethereal waters of the newest Metroidvania sensation, Ender Lilies, Quietus of the Knives. What did you think?
That's been like that for 2 weeks because we were originally like, or last week at least.
I should say Quietus of the Nights. And I would probably go further and say like newest Metroidvania, Dark Souls light, dark fantasy sensation. I think that accurately explains the game. So, do we want to start just, Mike, with the actual Metroidvania component of this game?
Sure.
So, like I said in the intro, I feel like this is a Metroidvania / Dark Souls light game set in a dark fantasy setting. I think that summarizes the game pretty well. Would you agree?
I would. I actually so very, very light Dark Souls. It kind of reminds me of Vigil.
Light. That's what I'm going to call it in the review.
It's very Souls light. And I say Souls light because one of the key things about Dark Souls or Souls-like games, I personally think, is the concept that when you collect experience or souls, whatever the case may be, and then if you die, you lose that experience. So there's that risk reward. And there's that constant tension. This game doesn't have that.
I think you need to elaborate on that, especially if people haven't played Souls, right?
Okay.
So I have all these enemies set in my world. If I kill them, they're permanently dead. But if I revive, they also revive, right?
That's right, yeah. So if you go to heal up at one of the bonfires in Dark Souls, all the enemies reset.
Yeah, yes, or here like
mechanic,
park benches are like the bonfires for this game. But the key thing there is like, and you needed to add it to what you said, which is you get experience points. They build up in Dark Souls. And then you have this constant trade-off. Do I keep pushing forward and like, get even more experience points, or do I go back, revive my health or whatever it is, but then that revives all the enemies. So then it kind of adds another layer of difficulty. So it's this constant tension you have of, do I push forward or do I go back and like revive myself and then reset everything and upgrade, my level? And this game kind of like, and this is why I call it like a Souls light, because you always absorb all the XP in this game. And I think it then kind of, weakens the Souls sort of treatment of this game. And I think another feature of like Souls, like, a Souls light is you have to say it's the difficulty level. And it's not saying this game's impossible, but the game's like challenging at times. And like, I think Swinny said it well, I think the first time you spoke about this game, which is you can't just run through enemies. Like you sort of can do that late in the game, but at least probably the first half of the game, if not a little bit more, you just can't, run through anyone. You will die if you don't pay attention to what you're doing. And, parrying, all that kind of stuff, the mechanics of the actual game. I think that's another element of like a Souls-like or a Souls light. And this game has it as well. But maybe we're just starting on the Metroidvania component. So as a Metroidvania, because, you and I and all three of us actually are big Metroidvania fans, how did you find it like satisfying from a Metroidvania component, or were the sort of things you were disappointed about?
No, I personally found it extremely satisfying. The most satisfying thing, I think, was the fact that you get double jump pretty much at the start of the game.
You're always a big fan of that.
The fucking double
well,
jump.
I love the double jump mechanic, and there's certain games where you get it so late in the game, then you're like, oh man, seriously? I wish I had this from the start. And of course, then they have other gates to keep you from being able to go to other parts of the level. So it's not like they give you all the abilities right off the bat, because you'd lose the satisfaction of unlocking those. And there are, of course, and literally at the very start of the game, there is a gate you can't open till the end of the game. And I love that. I love that concept. I love knowing that I can come back to it. And straight away you're like, oh, I see what's going on here. I bet I can come back to this towards the end of the game. And you do, and it's satisfying in that sense. The one thing that I found, which was kind of weird about, and I think it's more to do with me being an idiot, is there's certain doors that you get an ability to open. And I didn't realize that the ability that you get can be used to open all those kinds of doors, because they looked a bit different.
What?
So at the end of the game, I'm sitting there going, how the heck do I open these last ones? Am I missing an ability or something? And then I'm like, oh, I see. There's a bit of a puzzle element where you have to, run from a different area, and you have to use that same ability, but you need to power it up.
Yeah.
In order to do it. I won't spoil what it is. But in any case, I found it quite satisfying finding the different abilities and then applying them. The game is very forgiving in the sense that it lets you go back to previous areas with fast travel. But at the same time, it doesn't make things super easy for you. You have to memorize where certain things were. There's no. So if I think of something like, oh my gosh, the name escapes me again. Hollow Knight. You have the ability to put pins on the map, which were super handy in remembering where a certain thing was, where you got to come back later because you need an ability. This doesn't have that. And I think that's a good trade-off between, we'll let you go to places real quick, but we're not going to tell you or let you remember exactly where things are. You have to do that on your own. So that was pretty cool.
And I think like Hollow Knight, that's Western, so it's an Australian developed game. This is Japanese, and I feel like it wears the sort of Japanese nature on its sleeve with those type of things, like being a bit more old school in that way.
Is Livewire Japanese? You sure?
Yeah.
The people who developed this are Japanese.
Oh, I didn't know that.
It's a Japanese game. I didn't know that either. I don't know.
Oh, really?
Why.
I felt like it was very Japanese all the way through. That's interesting.
Look, the characters and stuff, but something about it's really weird, and I don't know what it was. It kind of reminded me of, I don't know, Ori and the Blind Forest mixed with a bit of Hollow Knight, which are all, Western games.
Yeah, okay.
But
no, I don't know. I always felt it was a Japanese game, and then seeing the credits, it's like all Japanese people. It's like, okay, well, it's consistent with what I thought. But
yeah, I had no idea. For some reason, I thought it would have been a European developer.
Okay, interesting.
Like an indie European developer.
So, for me, the Metroidvania component of this game is by far the strongest suit that it has, and I think pretty much can't be obviously challenged in terms of like being flawed. Like one thing I always find with Metroidvanias, it's this weird trade-off of like, it's actually kind of linear, a lot of Metroidvanias. Like I think at its core, a Metroidvania in a weird way is a very linear structure, right? It's just like a puzzle that you can solve the puzzle really in one way for the most part. Now, I don't want to go on tangent about, segment breaking and all this other kind of stuff, which
sequence breaking.
Yeah, sequence breaking, which, isn't necessarily intentionally a part of the games, and now they have become part of the games, and this game does have that as well. But, like I was always trying to say is, mostly Metroidvanias are actually like a puzzle that you're meant to solve in a certain order for the most part, but they do it in a way that doesn't feel like it is linear, right? And I think this game does that so well. Whenever I play a Metroidvania, the very first thing I always do is go to the left, which is, very classic. If you go back to NES with Metroid, you obviously have to go left to get the morph ball. And I do feel like, this game wears its influences on its sleeve as well. Like, you're not up to it, Swinny, but there's so many things in this game which are like direct references to me to like Dark Souls, with like some of the enemies and what they do and where they're at and what they call areas. And then Metroid as well, like where, from the start, from the left, like the whole way it's structured, it's sort of like almost like a bit of a joke to the player if they're in on it about, that is a thing that Metroidvanias do. It's like you have to go left rather than right. And then in this game, there's nothing until really the final part of the entire game, in reality, that you can finally go left at the start of the game.
So you can you can spoil me on this. Do you get a morph ball?
No.
Just imagine a little girl in a morph ball.
No, there's no ability like that. And
I wasn't saying the ability. It was just a bad joke.
And just on that, that is actually a really cool thing that this game does. So you have a relic system in this game, so you can carry different abilities, and it's to a point where you can actually replace your main weapon in the game with another weapon if that's what you choose to do, and you can level up those relics. And I got to like level 100 from an experience point of view, finish the game 100%. But, from a relics point of view, a lot of them were really underpowered still. And it would have taken me ages to grind out level 6, which is the max level for the relics. And I'm talking about like, you have a sword from the start pretty much, but then you can change that sword to like other weapons all the way through the game if that's what you choose to do, if you feel more, like that suits your style. But they've actually then integrated that into the Metroidvania component. So if you want to get 100%, you actually need to use the relics because they enhance mobility just a little bit more. And there's no other way to get to certain areas other than using the relics that enhance your mobility just fractionally to then be able to actually hit some of the areas you need to jump to, climb to, like do whatever. So,
by the way, I think you're talking about spirits. By the way,
spirits. Okay,
quick
sorry.
Clarification.
No,
there are relics. There are relics as well, and the point you just made about needing to use the spirits to get to certain parts, it also helps if you then have certain relics on top of that. So relics are basically objects that you hold, and you can have up to a certain number of slots. So, you can think of them as rings in other games. The difference being that you collect items that increase the number of slots that you can have available, and then you can mix and match. So if you wanted to build a particular type, or if you're in a particular area, like say there's an underwater area where you'll benefit from things that are geared towards better combat underwater, faster movement underwater, that kind of stuff, you'd swap those out. And then you have spirits, which as you said, are the ones that you use. They're basically your abilities. And you can chop and change those as much as you want. And you also get 2 different slots that you can... So you get 3 spirits per slot, and there's 2 different slots. So you can basically create 2 builds, which can come in handy.
There's 3 slots in 2 builds.
There's 3 slots in 2 builds, yes.
Yeah,
so you can have 2 different builds. I think that's what I said. And then you have
I'm
3 slots that you can put things into.
I'm listening to this, and I understand exactly what you're saying, but I'm like... It would be the most confusing thing in someone else.
It's going to be super confusing. The point is you get 3 abilities that you can pick from. You can upgrade those 3 abilities independently, and they get more powerful as you upgrade them with the resources that you find in the world. And that's probably the key thing to remember. You tend to not swap between... I didn't really swap between them too much, to be honest. I created my build, and that was the build I kind of went with. But I did experiment quite a bit, and there were certain bosses where the stuff that I was using didn't work so well, and other bosses where I'm like, wow, this strategy works so much better, and then I'd mix and match them. There was an element of, oh, should I invest my points into this particular thing? Because it is... And I remember asking Swinny this. I'm like, hey, do you get a lot of these things?
Like trying to min-max it.
This upgrade material so I can min-max it? Or is it... And I didn't realize that I was actually ahead of it at the time, so I probably knew more than he did. You get a fair amount for some of this stuff. So there's 2 types of upgrades. There's the ones... Actually, technically there's 3. There's your Umbral Knight, which is like the very first attack ability that you get. And that needs a specific type of upgrade material to be able to upgrade it, and you kind of... It's almost staggered through the progress of the game. You can't artificially get it early.
Yeah.
You kind of upgrade that ability in a way as you progress the game, because otherwise you can't get to the area to get those items. And then the other spirits are sort of split into 2 main parts. One which is like... I think there's 5 or 6 main spirits that you have, and they use one type of upgrade material, and then you have the rest of them, which... I wouldn't call them the weaker ones, but they're more secondary type of attacks. But you can use those as your primary as well. You can mix and match. That's the beauty of this game. You can mix and match so many different abilities. It's really, really cool.
Yeah, without getting into the jargon, it's almost a bit like weapons. It's like you can select kind of 3 weapons, sort of. Like
3 weapons / abilities, because not all are weapons. So one of them, for example, the Western Merchant, is a crow that you summon.
But that is a weapon, though, which
is technically a weapon, but like you don't control it per se, other than it hovers around you, and it not randomly, but like keeps attacking enemies.
It's basically familiar from...
It's a familiar, it's a familiar summon. But you get... The other thing that's probably worth noting is some of the spirits have unlimited uses. So, for example, your main Umbral Knight attack that you get at the start, you can use it as much as you want. Whereas other ones have very limited uses. Yeah. Some, as low as only 10 uses. Now, they can recharge. You can, when you kill enemies, it can randomly recharge. It recharges every time you go to rest. There's relics you can equip to increase the number of times you can use the spirit. But in any case, it's quite varied. And of course, usually the very powerful ones have very limited uses, whereas the ones that aren't, if you could call it quite as powerful, you get more uses out of.
Yeah. And so, like, essentially you don't pick a class from the start of the game like you would in, say, a Dark Souls or something like that. But throughout the game, you can kind of craft your build and what you want to be. And it's probably the bit that I want to then, like, lead into around the sort of Dark Souls-y nature of the game versus, like, the combat and mechanics of the game. I find that, and, this is starting to get a little bit spoilery, so maybe skip ahead 5-10 minutes. But, probably halfway through the game, you get projectiles, so like think like the crow and stuff like that. And, other just direct projectiles. And I felt like once you start to get projectiles in this game, the game becomes so much easier, in my view. Like once I had the crow on all the time, and I powered the crow up, and the crow just fucking destroys people.
I get the feeling. I get the feeling the crow is the kind of was. It was almost like intended to be something everyone uses, honestly.
But I think it's too strong, though. I think, look, honestly, I wouldn't even mind if they changed the balancing of the game. Like, I felt like the crow just makes it drops it down from a difficulty level.
To some extent, but it doesn't make it super easy. It doesn't
No,
make it a
doesn't make
boss
it
killer.
easy.
It doesn't make it, and it's gimped because you can't really control exactly where it shoots all of the time. So there's a lot of the
But
times
it's always
where
shooting,
it just
and it
randomly shoots projectiles at shit I don't even want it to
I-
shoot
Yeah.
at, and just waste
I
it.
thought of it like Near Automata or Near, where essentially it's something that is just like a companion attack.
Exactly like that. Yeah,
Like,
Yeah.
I
it
understand
helps.
what you're
It
saying,
helps
but
for sure.
I found that with the way they design some of the aerial enemies, they're quite frustrating to hit until you get that.
Sure.
So it kind of felt like, well, okay, so this is what I'm meant to use against this annoying
I use the
crows
witch
in the area.
more than the crow. So the witch has, and it is pretty cool because the crow is like a general. It kind of randomly hits different parts of the area. It's automated. There's another ability, and I won't mention all the names because it's probably a bit of a spoiler as well, where it basically shoots things just across the screen, kind of like shooting arrows or something in a straight line. And that changes the dynamic of how you play the game as well, because you have to jump and shoot instead of, automatically doing things. And there's another ability which throws these balls, these balls of magic that also allow you to sort of target. It's got a bit of targeting, and it allows you to shoot upwards or downwards, etc. And it does drastically change, I feel, the way you play the game. And as you said, if you go from just playing it purely melee, which you can, it's a different feel of the game. And to get to certain enemies are a lot harder because you got to jump, you got to hit them in the air, you got to jump back down and make sure you don't fall to your death, all this kind of shit. But that's the beauty of it, I think, the fact that you can mix and match to suit your gameplay style, and you can experiment. And I actually did. In a lot of games, I found I never did that. Whereas in this game, I'm like, I'll try all these different abilities, and it was really cool just to play with them.
No, it was really fantastic. And then, like, probably wrapping it up to a bit, and again, we're in a little bit of spoiler territory, so we'll, skip ahead maybe 5 minutes again. So there are multiple endings to this game. Don't want to totally give it away. Probably the one thing I would say is I felt, and I guess just my point is, if you take maybe a quarter of the way through the game and then maybe halfway through the game, I think that's the most challenging part of the game. Once you get certain spirits, relics, the game overall, I think, gets a lot easier. And then a game, for me at least, and it's all personal, I'm not the greatest gamer either, I feel like the game spikes up again right at the end, like with the bosses, like the final bosses, like not the ending A or the easier endings, but if you want to do everything in this game, 100% it, there's just a few parts that are a bit like, oh, this is a bit of a spike. I have to try this, a dozen times to be able to beat this boss. And it wasn't kind of like everything else I was getting through relatively straightforward, or it's just like learning the patterns. And then once I've learned that, I can beat it pretty much, the next time round.
But I had more difficulty with some of the maybe earlier to mid-game bosses than the final boss. I wouldn't say the final boss was easy, but it happened to be that the type of attacks I was using was really efficient against him. That even on the good ending, which requires extra steps, and again, I won't spoil anything. But it's a longer fight, is all I could spoil. Even that wasn't as much as a problem, which actually kind of surprised me, to be honest. I thought it'd be way more difficult, but it happened to be, and maybe a small, not a spoiler, but a small hint. The witch ability. So one thing we haven't talked about is the fact that you get, I forget the name of it, unfortunately, but you get the bar on the left-hand side, the spirit counter thing.
Spirit gauge, I think it's called.
Spirit gauge, yeah. So as you attack, it fills the spirit gauge up.
Yeah.
And then each of your spirits has a special ability that you can activate, which, by the way, slightly annoyed me at how you activate it, because you got to press up on the stick and then attack. So a lot of the times I was activating it without wanting to, because naturally when I was like trying to jump up into the air and stuff, I was activating it.
Yeah, but that's a Castlevania thing. So
yeah, look, I get it. You get used to it, but it didn't feel natural, if that makes sense, because naturally I would press up on the stick to do that, and I just kept wasting the ability when I didn't want to use it, or I kept using another ability and wasting it when I was trying to save the one that I was trying to actually use at the right moment. And there is one, the witch one, where it causes like things to go outwards from your character. The thing is, for aerial enemies, if you hit them at that central point, every single projectile hits them, and it just causes a huge amount of damage. So there's like these little hacky things that are quite cool too.
So in terms of like the game, like I love this game. I'm gonna give it a 9 out of 10 on my books review.
Nice.
I think like it's not anything original. I just think it's so well executed. You can play through the main campaign of the game. It's like, I don't know, about 10, 12 hours-ish, I think. And then if you want 100% it, it's probably maybe double that. Depends on how quick you are with stuff like that. Probably took me a bit longer because I was just really trying to soak it all in. So I really loved it. How about you, Mike? Where did you land on it?
Yeah, loved it. I would probably give it about the same. Maybe an 8.5, 9-ish if I had to round it up.
If I could do the percentages, it would probably be 8.7.
It'd be about that. There are a few things where, again, I think it's down to user stupidity more than anything else. Where I'm like, so that's how you do that part. Fair enough. There's a few things that I think you mentioned it. Getting to certain parts of the map if you want to 100% it is a pain. You're given the tools to do it, but I almost feel like you almost need to break the game. But you don't. It just feels like it almost needs to break the game for you to get to those things. You know what I mean? Like it's not a natural way to get there. Like did the developers really intend this? I guess they did. It's weird. And there was one frustration, which again, I reckon I would boil it down to user error, where the very end of the game, the area was a pain in the butt. And then let's just say there's an item that you get, which makes it a hell of a lot easier. And I didn't know that until I came back later. I'm like, I
think we're running a little
anyway,
long. So
sorry.
I think you need to get the hook out for Mike.
He's very passionate about it.
It's a great game. About this game. It's really cool. Love it to bits. Grab it. I grabbed it at full price and I do not regret it at all. I think it's worth every dollar.
I look forward to getting back to it.
I just like how Mike just keeps going on and on with stuff, even though we're like, come on, let's go on, let's wrap up.
This is supposed to be your review, no less.
No, it's our review. All right. Okay. Next we'll go to The Legend of Zelda Skyward Sword. So it was released this Friday. I picked it up. I've only played a little bit of the Wii version of this game, so probably the first hour of the Wii version. And I've probably put in maybe 4 or 5 hours into this game, and I'm really loving it. Like, I love the setting, I love the graphics, and to me, I won't go too in detail, and we'll probably be pretty brief in this segment because I think I'll definitely do a review on the show with this game. I think it's such a good counterpoint to Breath of the Wild. Like, this game to me is like, it's so different in a way to Breath of the Wild in terms of, it's so heavy on dungeons. It's so linear. It feels the most linear Zelda game I've ever played.
It is the most linear Zelda game, except maybe, I don't know, like there's you could probably find something, but yeah. That's
mainline Zelda games, I can't think of one that feels, because there's kind of no overworld, at least at this stage, and it doesn't feel like there will be. And yeah, so yeah, you're just kind of like agreeing with me, right?
So I'll just say I've played a little bit of this.
Oh wait, do you have HD
or the new one?
Yeah. So I played a little bit of this.
Wait, sorry, what are you saying yes to? Because we said HD and the Wii version. So which one are you talking about?
Of HD.
Oh, you got it.
I beat the original Skyward Sword, so obviously I know a little bit of that. But yeah, I played a bit of the HD one. So I just want to put that out there so when you're talking, you can potentially kind of throw me a bit.
Yeah, so no, really, really enjoying it so far. And I'm glad that you've got it, because then we can chat about it in the review as well.
Which one of the birds do you play as? Sorry, it's
Crimson.
You play as the Crimson Bird.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Well, no, I play as you ride, but
what?
As opposed to like Wolflink, you are Wolflink. But anyway, let's Mike is like seriously getting us off track in the show. Like the biggest thing is, because we will cover it in a review, so we'll probably leave most of the remarks there. Just on quality of life though, Swinny, because I think it is critical. Like, they've focused so much on quality of life in this game. As someone who never played much of the first one, and I did actually get annoyed with just the tutorial structure of the first game, but I've forgotten about that because I hadn't played it for such a long time. I personally have not been bothered by Fee or like the game throwing up like, this is how you do this, or
was she like Mega Man?
Pretty much in the original version, yeah.
Well, I personally find Navi in Ocarina of Time more annoying than Fee in this game, in this version. So that kind of puts it into context.
Yeah, the original was really bad. I'm still in Skyloft, so I literally just played it for like an hour. I just wanted to get a handle of the basic controls before we talked about it. But in terms of that stuff, I I haven't got to that part yet to call.
Yeah, I just wanted to comment on that because I know I've been a little bit further ahead, or I was guessing I was probably a bit further ahead than you. Now I just want to wrap it up by just talking about the controls, right? So this game, absolutely controversial with its controls. Now, I don't think it's as bad as Star Fox Zero, a game that I played a lot, and genuinely the controls of that game are bad, right? I do think the thread line is, though, these two games force you to play the game the way it wants you to play, which is so contrary to if you're a gamer and you play games, you're so used to certain things being set in a way. So number one, like motion,
camera controls.
Well, I was gonna get to that. So I've played I purposely did this. This is the sacrifice I make for the show. I played half of the time in motion and half the time in like stick, like button control. So like 2 to 3 hours in each way, right? And to me, after that 2.5 to 3 hour time, genuinely, there is not a better way to play. Like there's trade-offs, and it's very frustrating because I don't find that either are great. Like as Swinny was saying, when you're playing with like controllers, the way I would play it is, so I usually play in a handheld, and I've got the grip buttons. I assigned the L bumper, like L in like Switch terms, to the grip button, and I would just hold the grip button all the time. And the reason why I do that is then my right stick becomes a control, like a camera control. If I do not do that, naturally, especially if I'm jumping back to the game quickly, I would try to turn the camera and I'd take a swing on my sword, because right stick is assigned to the swings of your sword. And it does kind of make sense. I understand why they're doing that and everything like that. But honestly, the simple solution I would have done for this game, and I actually feel like I'm almost a bit surprised that Nintendo didn't do it like this or something like that, but is when you're doing the targeting mode, so that's ZL for the Switch, when you're in target mode, to me, what it should do is your right stick should no longer be a camera, it should be your sword and being able to swing it, right?
And then that's how I would have thought it would work.
Then the L button should be I'm activating the sword. Like I'm switching the right stick to be sword, right? And I feel like if they had done that or had that as an option, that would 100% be the best way to play the game. And I actually think if I was rating this game, it would probably bump it up like half a point. Like if they could do that. Because it's like, I don't know, Swinny, man. Like I feel like I need to just dedicate my time to play this game. So then the controls stick in my head. Because if I try to jump to other games or come back a little bit later, I'm like, oh my God, I can't control it again. I've forgotten that, the bloody right stick is not a camera. How do you find it?
So I tried both options, obviously, so we can talk about it. So I started with controller because first of all, my Joy-Cons were dead, so I had to start with controller. Once I'd got a bit of power, then I could swap. I find the controller setup to be really awkward. I don't like using the sword with the controller at all.
Oh, okay.
I find it just, I don't know, like I guess I'd have to get used to it more, but even doing the spin attack I find really annoying with it. And to clarify for anyone who doesn't know, the original Skyward Sword didn't have free camera control. It never had free camera control. You could only look in first person or use the Z targeting to face forward. So they essentially have added camera control to a game that never had it in the first place. So the fact that they even did that, I think, is commendable. And that's where I get to the motion controls. So with the motion controls, I actually think they work pretty well.
Yeah.
I'm actually pretty impressed. I still prefer the feeling of the Wii Motion Plus controller and the grip and everything. I don't like the Joy-Cons myself using them like that, but I think they handle them pretty well. And the fact that you have free camera control with the Joy-Cons now is a massive plus. And
huge plus.
I can't see myself playing this game with the controller.
Yeah, so like we should just clarify that. So if you're playing sticks, you have to then use the modifier to use your camera. So you have to press the L button. Whereas if you're motion, because the right Joy-Con is your sword, like swinging it around, then that right stick button becomes your camera, like free camera.
But to come to what I hate about the motion controls, and it's not the game, I have Joy-Con drift.
It's so bad.
But there's a fix for it. All I need is a piece of paper.
Yeah, and I have to open the thing up and everything.
Yeah, and then the piece of paper would destroy the Joy-Con eventually, for sure.
So basically, it means that if I want to use this game, I want to play this game, I have to go get a new Joy-Con.
Wow. So another thing that I've got is the Skyward Sword Joy-Cons.
Of course you did.
I have to say, these Joy-Cons in person look amazing. They look so good. Like, I'm so glad I got them. But that sucks that you have drift, because I kind of agree that motion does seem to be the primary way I'll play this game. And then if I'm playing it like in bed or whatever, obviously I'll just play it on sticks and deal with it.
Mike stepped away for a second. Mike, there's free camera control with the Joy-Con motion option.
But I do find...
I heard the fact that you said the original version of the game didn't have camera control at all, which is interesting.
Whereas the new motion control setup does. So it's actually weirdly an improvement in that sense. And it's pretty good. What I'm looking forward to getting to is there's a lot of motion puzzles in this game that aren't like the sword or the flying with the Loftwing. I'm interested to see if that still feels really good later in the game. But the last thing I'll say about this thing, because we're running a bit long, is, oh my God, the graphical improvement in this game is so tremendous, because the original, I could never get to look like anything but trash. Like, it just always looked horrible, regardless. And so I'm so glad we've got a really nice, crisp version. And now I can actually see the art style, and obviously done a lot of work, but it's like, okay, now it doesn't look like a muddy mess. Now it actually looks really nice. So
yeah. I'm really looking forward to when we review it. I'm gonna hold off until you finish the game. I'm probably gonna try to power through it over the next couple of weeks. But we'll see how we go. Like, if you put it on the total backlog, then maybe I'll just review it anyway. But yeah,
sure.
if you do try to get through it, then we'll play it. We'll talk more about it, because I'm really keen. I love the game so far. Like, it is extremely frustrating. Like, just the quick point I wanted to make about the motion controls, because I have got a Wii Motion Plus. There are like pros and cons to both. I don't think either of them are the best. The Switch Joy-Cons, I actually find it to be a little bit more accurate if I want to move things around, but its calibration goes off way more because it doesn't have that bar, that sensor bar, which kind of like holds the whole Wii Motion Plus to a certain range. So you don't need to calibrate it almost at all, from my experience. But yeah, it's like, it really is annoying, because every now and then I'll do a swipe and it will do the wrong swipe. And I'm like, I feel like I'm trying to be very careful and accurate with it. And it just feels like 1 in 20-ish times it doesn't do what I'm intending. And it just pisses me off. So I don't know. It's very compromised in that way. So, Wait, you want to say something really quick, Mike?
With the Wii controls, do you have to have them detached so you can't have it handheld fully? Or does the motion work fine without it? So, like if I imagine
the Wii controls, what?
No, sorry. So if I imagine a Joy-Con and you got to kind of, swipe it like a sword, I'm assuming it's got to be detached from the Switch, right? Or can you play the game with motion controls but attached to the Switch?
No, you obviously can't swing the sword with it as a handheld.
I'm picturing like the whole Switch doing this.
Mike, you are doing this all the time, and you're not only that, but your flying controls, you're constantly like doing this stuff. Like, there's no way you could do this with attached to the Switch.
The thing is, though, Swinny, I think it does have limited motion for some of the things if you're doing handheld with Joy-Cons, but I never tested that.
Oh, the Pro Controller has like apparently motion aiming and stuff.
Motion aiming and stuff like that. So, but you're not really. That's such a minimal part of it. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So, very confusing question, Mike. Like, can you detach the Wii controller? I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Sorry.
What did I throw to you? I knew I was going to regret throwing to you for it.
I should have moved on. Second question, though.
No second question.
No, I need to know this.
We're going long.
Because it will matter whether I buy it or not. So, difficulty-wise, so far,
it's Skyward Sword. It's not going to be hard.
No, well, I don't know that.
The difficulty comes from how awkward the controls are. Right?
Okay.
Like, the only times I died, it's because the controls are annoying.
This is easier than Breath of the Wild.
Oh,
okay, cool.
Then Magnitude's easier.
Would enjoy.
Magnitude's easier.
Because she wasn't. Yeah, she found that a bit too.
I've died in this game, but it's mostly because like I tried to do something, swing or do whatever, and it just didn't do the input the way I wanted it to do it. And then that was it. All right, let's go to our final segment, which is just celebrating us. It's all about us. Our first birthday. It's all about us, boys. The potty. So yes, this is our 1 year anniversary. I think like we're all a bit shocked that it's been 1 year. At least I am. So yeah, we just like quickly reminisce. Like we're obviously really long, and we try to end it around this time. So we'll probably just shout out a few cool things that have happened on the podcast. Maybe start with you, Swinny. You have a bit of a think, Mike, because I'm sure you have done no prep for this.
So I will say, oh, that face. I will say that I'm shocked that it's been a year already, but I'm not shocked that we made it to a year because I think there's always been a passion for doing this show. We talked about at the start that a lot of podcasts, they will start up and then they'll get about 10 episodes in and say that there's probably research out there that says this is the average amount of episodes that a podcast will get to before, like most of them die off. But I knew that wouldn't be the case for us. I knew that we're not only so passionate about gaming, but we love to hear ourselves talk, and we love to the phone conversations that Integot and I used to have. Throughout the years, sometimes it would be ridiculous where the phone conversation's going for like 3 or 4 hours. Even the other day, we were on the phone and I checked, it was like an hour and a half, and I thought it'd been like half an hour. So, but in terms of my favorite parts of the first year of the show, I loved doing the E3 live reactions. I think that's one of the coolest stuff. That's obviously not unique to the show. Everyone does that, but it was the first really for us outside of, I know you guys have done the Game Awards reaction, and that's another highlight.
Yeah, that was funny.
watching you guys react to the Game Awards while I played a video game, so I could, just like not have to put up with that. Doing Game of Some Other Year was just awesome. Any segment where we were choosing the games themselves, so the shortlist, the nominees, the deliberation itself was just so much fun, and that's the stuff that I want to do the show for. Is so that, like, have discussions about games that we love. And obviously any game that's going to get into that far is games we love. And I guess probably one of my most memorable parts of the show, and for bad reasons, I should say, was when episode 13, so I was looking it up before.
Dude, I know what you're going to say. I actually know what you're going to say, but go on.
So the episode, I Have the Power to End It All. The episode that Mike, on short notice, stepped in, and I'm so thankful.
You're
and
in
obviously
hospital.
Joined the show.
Yeah.
I was in hospital, so I couldn't do the show. And then when the episode went live, I actually listened to it lying there in the hospital bed. And then it got to the Mortal Kombat segment. And then Indigot's about to get to it, and Mike cuts him off right away with, "And the crowd goes mild." I was like, what the fuck?
Yeah.
You're like, if anyone, because at that point, I can't remember I don't know if we're doing clips at that point yet or not. I can't remember, but
no.
I don't think we were. But if that had been a clip, the person on YouTube that was looking for Mortal Kombat, it was about Mortal Kombat Rambo DLC, and it's like, I found this clip. Mortal Kombat Veteran Rambo, and the crowd goes, but just completely shits on the segment, and it's just one of the most memorable things. I'm glad it happened, so it's just something I can laugh about. But
so
I just remember listening to it, being like, "What are you doing?"
Would you say Mike's a bit of a dickhead?
I don't know why you own that. I still don't know. I can't understand why you own that.
Purely for the show.
But what? Wait, like,
because I'm a dickhead.
Why
else?
I've got to actually be careful because
don't put your finger
no.
in.
I think you should take it off. I think you should take it off because I don't want to get the whole episode removed from
do you
YouTube.
Think Google has some sort of automatic?
Yeah, it definitely does.
Penis detection algorithm.
But we did actually clip that clip, by the way. It's Mortal Kombat First Blood, I believe.
Oh, we do have a clip.
Yeah, so if you want to search...
Can you play the audio, please?
No,
can you play the audio?
Oh, okay. But okay.
I just want to hear it.
Let me just line it up. Let me line it up because I can do it actually.
Okay, but oh man, yeah. So that was me. Like, there's a lot you can talk about, but we're going long, so I'll throw it to you guys.
Well, I'm glad we made you laugh in hospital. That's what we're here for.
I wasn't laughing at the time. No, but I'm very thankful that you were able to step in and eventually join the show, Mike.
Well, I am thankful for you guys letting me be part of the show. It's been an absolute blast. I mean, I don't know. There's a whole bunch of highlights. I think I do remember fondly falling off the desk while I
on purpose
put up a poster of someone. Well, what did they call me again? I still have a copy of that.
It's just ignorant. It's just, there's truth to that. You don't research. You don't. Very rarely research, unless it's the Steam Deck. Unless it's like an announcement that's like the biggest of the year. Oh yeah, I'll do some research. I'll do some effort. But
I was looking forward to that thing.
All right, do you want to listen to your opening segment?
Sure.
I think I've got it lined up. Let me just see. Does this look all right? I just got to change the level. Actually, I think I got to do it in here. So I bring this up.
Cool.
Okay.
Can you hear that?
No. We can't.
Oh, you couldn't hear that?
No.
Oh, interesting. I'm pretty sure you'd be able to hear it in the recording, though.
Like everyone else could hear it, but we can't.
Yeah, it's like literally the start. Like I go, oh, let's talk about Mortal Kombat DLC. And then Mike just cuts in and goes, and the crowd goes mild. I'm like...
I found the comment, by the way, Mike. So it's on
please remind me.
It's on the arcade 1-up cabinets clip. I knew exactly what clip it was.
I like how this has just become like shit on Mike segment.
The guy in the middle, let's not talk about Assassin's Creed, Aussie. The guy in the middle is really ignorant, arrogant, and smug. Good luck gaining subscribers when you tell potential new viewers that the hobby isn't really a hobby and it's an addiction. I gotta give this person credit. Like
they listened.
No, it's like it's all grammar and spelling correct.
Yeah.
But they're also listening to what he's saying, and they're actually calling him out for it.
It's actually written really well. Like it's an actual proper writing. It's great.
I think it's really good. And I hold no resentment towards that person. I think they were absolutely 100% right. So
can I just say, so this is a bit of behind the scenes. So, we've all known each other for like 25 years. I was actually looking at it and I was thinking, wow, it's so funny that we picked Game of Some Other Year in 1995. So Go Soy 95, because that was just before we met each other, like that period of time. Oh. So it's like we picked a year just before we actually all knew each other. So we've known each other for ages.
Knew each other for longer than that, though.
Little did Integot know, I only became his friend so I could borrow Donkey Kong Country 2.
That's fair enough. I've known Swinny for 2 years longer than you, Mike. So
only that much.
Like when you actually look at it as a percentage, it's like nothing,
Best buddies since you came out of your mother's wombs. I don't know.
Okay.
I don't know. I just thought you guys knew each other for ages.
So just like, again,
shock to me.
Behind the scenes, like, with the show, honestly, for me, it's like a really good opportunity to catch up with you guys. Like whether, I grew up in Melbourne, you guys are still in Melbourne, I'm now in Sydney. It's a good structured, here's a couple of hours, have a chat, have a yarn about something. Similar to when Swinny and I used to play pool all the time. We'd I don't know how often we'd play pool, like once every 3 days or something like that. It was insane for a period of time.
Jeez.
And like, that's where I totally agree with you, Swinny. For me, I've got, I'm a crazy person. I think you guys know that. And I'll put like the calendar or the schedule of stuff out to like mid 2022. And I don't know who it was. I think it was Mike. I think you were like, oh, are we going to do the show until then? And like for me, it's like, I don't really see the show ending. Like for me, like
I don't either.
Not from an insane person perspective. It's just like, catching up with mates, having a chat. And we don't do this for like subscribers or views or to like make a big channel or all that kind of stuff. Like that all is like cool and it's like a nice bonus. And, I do want to build like a community. That would be cool in the next couple of years.
Please don't forget to like and subscribe.
But it's not why we do it. I don't think. It's not why I do it, I should say.
No.
So little do people know that Integot only does a show so he can take the learnings and the tech that he sets up to become a corporate influencer and then take over the business world.
I have actually used a lot of the learnings on like how to edit videos, and I even shot a video at where I work because
I saw some of the stuff you made. I'm like, whoa, that's better than the shit they actually pay people to do.
Yeah. So when I did it, people thought it was like a production company, and I was like, and the people were like, no, he did everything. He shot it, edited it, like sound, everything.
So do you go, Well, it's been a big week in business.
This is really super behind the scenes now. So, like, you know, without like doxing myself, but essentially, I was actually suggesting at work that we start to shoot weekly videos to update people about some of the initiatives that are happening. And in my mind, it was like going to be like a Nintendo Direct, but like for business. It was going to be like, here's like, so really like targeted, you know, 10-second like clip. Like this is happening as Mike is just completely
has happened to me.
Mike is just he's turned into the blob.
We're actually seeing the mind of Mike right now. This is like his brain, scatterbrain, shit's everywhere. It's just all
hello, people of Earth. I have come in peace.
I think it's probably hurting people's eyes now. I reckon you should take it off.
Yeah, we got to put a seizure warning at the start of this episode.
See,
man, look at those guns.
You guys can still hear me though, yeah?
Yeah, I can still hear you. Yeah, you can hear him, Swinny.
Yeah.
So for me, just quickly, like I actually ran through and did the math. So we've done 57 podcasts when you're including the live reactions and things like that. So 57 podcasts and live reactions, right? And then I added up the hours and it blew me away. So we've been doing this for a year now, obviously, first birthday. So it added up to 139 hours and 53 minutes.
Moly.
And I was like, holy shit, like that's 1 hour? I'm like thinking, is that even right? Because once you start dividing like on a weekly basis, like 50, like that's like 2.5 hours a week. And I'm like,
well, it is 2.5 hours a week, but
because like we're almost exactly 2.5 hours into the podcast right now.
It's about that, yeah. And not included, the amount of crazy hours you guys put in doing shit for the podcast outside of the podcast is insane. Like, big shout out to the two. Whoa, I'm back. Whoa,
back, boys.
Whoa, what the hell? Lucky I'm still wearing my shirt. Yeah, the crazy hours that you guys put in outside of this, doing the run sheet, the research, and integot the layouts, and like, for example, even little things like right now, if you're actually watching this on YouTube, you can see the little Bigwig pod going across the screen with a bit of a blur, and it's anime. I don't even know how you do that shit. It is so cool. And the automatic, he presses a button and I'm bigger and full screen.
He presses a button and I turn into an Xbox.
It's witchcraft. So if you are listening to this on an actual podcasting oh, you know what would be brilliant? If we could green screen him. So while he's actually talking, you just see the mouth and the eyes.
I could do that, but I'm not sure if we want to do that, right?
There was part of me a while back, I considered that when we're going to do the face reveal. I'm like, can I become an Xbox VTuber?
Yeah, that's right. We should all just be like representatives of the consoles we stand. No, it's been awesome doing the show. Like, you know, I'm just like looking forward to it to keep growing. It's been cool. Like, I never expected that we'd be getting like, you know, codes for things before they get released and, you know, building out those networks and everything like that. Hopefully, like, we're all in lockdown at the moment. I really, really hope that PAX goes ahead. I'm able to go down. It's looking unlikely, but I hold out hope that it will happen because I just think it'd be really cool to catch up. Like if we could actually do a podcast together all in one room, which I'm not sure what the dynamics would be. I'm not even sure how we'd record it.
Yeah, we can finally use our blue microphones with that setting that allows you to do more than one person.
Yeah, but that setting's horrible. You wouldn't want to use that setting. So. But
point having that stupid thing in the background.
But no, it's like, you know, it's funny that it's when you went to that like episode 13 because that also is like one of those ones that made me laugh a lot. Like just
my eye is all screwed up.
Yeah, I know. You guys are like getting a lot of compression artifacts. I don't know. It might be on my end. It might be just like it's not coping with all the.
If you go out of the scene and come back, you reset.
It's all good now.
But yeah, so, like I think maybe we can wrap it up unless there's
but just quickly before we wrap it up. Like
this is Mike in a nutshell. Doesn't think about the show length or anything.
No, I do care about the length. The length is very important, as is width. Now, quick question: what are you guys looking forward to? I wouldn't say the most necessarily, but what are some of the things you're looking forward to in the next year of us doing this?
I'm looking forward to when we could potentially do some like gaming challenges or something, something where we can actually get more interactive with the format. That would be cool. Like I don't want us to be a lot of channels, and maybe we'll do this at some point, but like the whole let's play stuff, mix it in. But to me, it's like, okay, we do our predictions for E3, and it's like the loser has to, like, I don't know, do something, and we record it. Like they have to, like stuff like that. You know what I mean? It's like I'm getting more interactive with the format is something that I look forward to.
So like, for example, if Integot loses a challenge, he has to dress up as Princess Peach and run down Pitt Street Mall.
I was thinking within,
screaming out, "I love you, Mario."
I was thinking within video games, but
right, okay.
We can leave those challenges to you because I'm sure you'd actually be happy to do it.
Probably.
For me, probably two things. Like one is like right on the, next week hopefully, is like a rebrand. I feel like just freshening things up. It's very different what we're thinking of doing, but I think, doing something different that represents what we do. As Swinny now is like disappearing. It looks like you're trying to wipe the screen or something like that.
He's rebranding himself. Oh, that actually looks sick. Can we go full screen on him now? He looks awesome.
Yeah, so like what I was trying to say is no, that's not going to work. That's not going to work. I think I can refresh it on my end and then it will like actually like come good. Yeah, sorry. So rebranding like is one thing. And then like for me, kind of in a similar vein to Swinny, but just like bringing in more of the community. Like I'd be really keen to actually like, start a Discord when it makes sense. Like in terms of once there's, I don't know what that measure is. Like we're like, decent download numbers for the podcast. And then it's like around 250 subs, which is cool. But maybe when it's more like 1,000 or something like that. Starting up a Discord, because I think you need to have some people in there. If it's only like us and one other person, it probably doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, that'd be awkward.
But I think even if it's like a dozen people, it's enough because it's like a little community. And I'd actually like to do stuff like, streaming, but like kind of in line with what you're saying, Swinny, like make these things funny in events. Like, for instance, Worms is a part of Game of Some Other Year 95. I feel like that would be the kind of content that would be funny to stream and like, structure it in a way we're all playing and then you can bring people from the community to play as well. But how about you, Mike, just to close out the show?
Awesome. Obviously all the stuff that you guys mentioned as well. I'd love to get guests on the show in the next year, like throughout the next year, not in the next year. Especially, I think, people and game developers from Australia.
Sorry.
Mike would look great with green hair.
Wow.
For anyone who's listening by audio who's made it this far, what's happening is like our connections are degrading or something, and then it's like causing the codec to just go nuts.
Oh no, I just did that in my. Oh no, it's back.
The green hair actually wouldn't look bad on you, man.
It looks kind of cool. Yeah, you're saying bring on guests.
So bring on guests, and I think specifically, not that I'd rule anyone out, but I think specifically games from the Australian gaming industry.
I just like how you start so negative. Not that I rule anyone out.
Well, it's not that I only want this to be an Australian thing. Nothing like that. I think it's something that is open to everyone everywhere. But I think I'd love to focus on. We're not exactly a channel that is huge enough to advertise people, but I'd love to have people on the show that are from the Australian gaming community to give them more exposure, especially indie game developers, big, whoever. I just think it'd be really awesome to do some collab stuff with them. That's one of the things I'm looking forward to. And having our own custom printed t-shirts.
Yeah, it'd be really interesting to see if people, how they react to the rebrand. If people just genuinely hate it.
But subs would just go.
Which I could imagine, like people might actually really hate what we're doing. But again, we're not really doing it for people. It's like, I think for me, it's still just a good chance to chat.
Totally. And this, for me, it's 100%. I have I think we're all in a privileged position where we have day jobs. So we're not doing this for the money. I absolutely don't. In fact, this has been a money sink for some of us. It's more you do it just because it's a good way to catch up and because you're passionate about the topics that you're working on.
Yeah, I would never want to do this full time, even if we became a big channel. Like I would never give up my job.
You never know.
last thing for me before we get into the outro. As my first episode of Facecam, I just will say I don't think you guys saw it. There was a moment where I attempted to drink water. With the lid on,
no, we missed it.
With the lid on. And I'm like...
Can you get the timestamp? Because
I'm sure I'll find it, but it's like, that's right. Now I'm on camera and the lid was on. That's embarrassing.
Because I could put that on TikTok and then put the little like Metal Gear Solid alert thing. All right, well, we should definitely wrap the show up. So it has been a big week in gaming. It's been a big episode. This is like almost akin to our first couple of episodes where they went for like 3 hours very consistently. But it's probably makes sense given that it is our 1 year anniversary, our first birthday of the show. So next week we will be checking in on the gaming resolutions. I think it's also an opportunity to maybe rejig some of the resolutions. A bit controversial. I know that Swinny wouldn't believe in that, but we'll take it over.
And I believe revision.
And Swinny, I believe you're reviewing Empire of Angels 4, if you are able to finish it.
Maybe.
Wait, is this like a game?
I didn't put it in the hype.
I just put it out there, so now you have to do it. And then, as always, if you want to follow us on socials, search for Bigwig Pod, BIGWIGPOD. With that, bye-bye.
Ciao.